look at this.
Marriott, you didn't know he was here?
Just quick. You were here before lunch?
What? Two?
No, I was here at lunch. I came
Thank
here
you
when the
so
party
much.
started.
Okay, didn't mean to use the gavel for that one. Okay, so I'm calling the meeting back to order at 1:14. Did we go live? We went live for my address.
It was for the Caribou mostly.
Our drug addict there.
Sorry, I had a headache.
I just don't have enough to go.
Okay, so we are back in order, and per our last tabled motion, we are still in the County Organization Support Committee report. We were extended for 10 minutes, so we are back to that. Mr. Shannon.
So I think the thing that I heard that I liked the most out of that discussion we were having was basically when a new county organization starts, we just forward them some portion of the dues according to a budget, right? If they've said, hey, we want $10,000, like, yeah, that's not gonna work, why don't you think about $500? And I think, I don't know for, what the mean is for, what these counties that are unaffiliated have got sitting in accounts for them. I mean, I imagine the ones that are unaffiliated are rather small and maybe not have a lot of people, so $25 a year doesn't add up to a whole lot of time.
Yeah, it's nothing, and I'd rather not say, okay, we'll grab your due sharing for the next couple of years or whatever. It's like, no, you guys need some money now for expenses for doing, I don't even know what people need, cause I'm not a startup. But it just seems reasonable to me that we need to have some advertising out there that says, hey, here we are. And I wanna make sure somebody gets launched properly, other than they can't get things done because they don't have any money. And that's the point. And I don't wanna cut them off of due sharing like for the next whatever. It's like, no, your due sharing starts coming in. This is to help you get going.
Okay,
I
Ms.
would be
Good.
for an idea of a package of $200 to $300 to start. I mean, cause they could start the bank account with $100 and then the 200 would be for like literature and I mean, I would think that would be reasonable. Anybody else?
It's better than nothing.
And I also think
It's better than me paying that $200 or $300.
Okay, Mr. Shaw.
I also think if we were to get a bulk deal on like perhaps based on the work of the program committee, just a few certain handouts and having a bunch of them, ordering them in mass, and then having those ready to distribute to those groups, that would be very helpful.
I got a blank sheet paper you can have right now.
Okay, I'm gonna put myself
Right
in the
over my
menu,
head.
because my hand is
Programs.
actually up,
Yeah,
believe it or not.
Well, no, that's the pot.
Oh, sorry, fine.
My hand is up, so it's me and then Mr. Dawson. So what I was gonna say is one of the ideas that was brought forth before we went on lunch was that we could do this on a case-by-case basis, so rather than say every new affiliate gets $200 or $300, the new affiliate, we let them know as they get affiliated, give us a proposal of what your startup cost might be, we can then vote on it as a committee, and then we can give them what we feel is appropriate for whatever their proposal is. And I think that's a better way to do it than to just say, we're gonna give every new affiliate $200.
Agreed.
And Mr. Dawson was first and then Mr. Shannon.
I was basically just gonna say that again, so yeah, we're on the same page.
Orders of the day.
Orders of the day are that we're 2 minutes and 19 seconds into this 10-minute extension.
Mr. Chair? I
Mr.
don't hear any further discussion going on.
I just suggest maybe we should, do that, we propose, but set a maximum, just as a rule of thumb.
Okay, first I'm gonna say, does anybody object to hearing from Mr. Morano? Hearing none.
I just have a question. Would that request be submitted to the area coordinator or to the affiliate support committee or directly to the executive committee?
Could be.
I'm gonna throw myself into that and say that it could be either.
Yeah.
The new affiliate, as they're affiliated or recognized as a county organization, however you wanna call it, they would, the area coordinator could then bring forth the motion, or they could just write an email to the officers of the party and say, I would like to have this amount of money for my startup, and then a motion could be made, because it would end up being, because it's an expenditure and it's not budgeted, something that would happen here. So to your point, Mr. Callahan, I don't think that we have to have a top level here, because it's gonna be a case-by-case basis. If you're in a bigger county, which most of the bigger counties are affiliated, organized, whatever, but if it is a bigger county, they're gonna need more than $200, maybe, to get certain startups. But if you're a county like Imperial that currently has 3 members, maybe they need $200 to get some advertising for a meetup. So I think it would be a case-by-case basis. Mr. Shannon, you had your hand up?
No.
Okay, Mr. Dawson and then Mr. Lieutenant.
Yeah, so I think, just going with how I run my company, I think what a good rule of thumb would be, affiliate support committee could give it a yes or no based on a maximum that's set by the treasurer, who knows the budget well, and can say this is the max, and then if it goes above that, then it just goes to us.
Point of information, that's not the way it would work in our bylaws.
Gotcha. No, sorry about that.
It would have to come to this committee because it's unless we had a budgeted item, which,
Okay.
so unless we're gonna make a motion for a budgeted item, it would have to come to this committee. It's not up to the treasurer doesn't have a discretionary spending fund.
Gotcha, okay.
Mr. Quintero?
And I was making the same point, I just think it should go to the affiliate support committee to make that decision, maybe keep it at the lowest level possible instead of coming to the executive.
And as a point, it could start at that committee, and then that committee can bring it forth to this committee, but ultimately, per our bylaws, this
Yeah.
committee would be the one that makes the ultimate decision. And it could be done on an email ballot, it doesn't have to be done just at our quarterly meetings.
Yeah.
This could be done as needed in emails, Mr. Quintero, or Mr. Quigley.
Just for clarification, it sounds like everyone mostly agrees that there should be some form of financial support. So really what we're talking about now is the difference between setting a base amount that they automatically get versus giving them this ability to apply for and pending approval of the rest of us. If we go that route, she's right. You don't really have to set limits or any criteria because every single case is gonna come to the executive committee, and no matter by which process they use. And we'll talk about it like we are now, discuss it and vote on it, so.
Right.
It really comes down to, do we wanna give a certain amount of money and decide what that money is and say you automatically get that? Or just create an avenue for them to apply for it if they need it? There might be some affiliates that don't think they need it right off the bat.
And that is true too, Mr. Hill.
Do we wanna put this into the OPM so that there's one established guideline that can be, I mean, or list out the options so that everybody can be on the same page as what the procedure is?
We could, although I don't know how you'd phrase such a standing rule. Cause ultimately it's a budget thing, right? So, like earlier we put something in the OPM saying that because we already have a budgeted expense of $2,000 per area, this is the criteria that they can spend that for. Because we don't have a budgeted expense, there would be, I don't know how you'd phrase a standing rule unless there was first a budgeted expense.
It would be on the condition that money's available, right? So first you say if money's available or something like that, and a new affiliate organization would like, they may apply to their area coordinator or directly to the executive committee for whatever these guidelines are that you're all agreeing to, and this is how it would work, and these are the limits.
Okay, so then my question would be, are you putting forth a motion for that?
I'm asking the question right now, I mean, maybe there's a better place for it, I'm just saying, so that we can get it down and equal for everybody and get it out to everybody.
Once it's established.
It would be up to somebody on this committee to figure out a way to phrase that as a standing rule, Mr. Shannon.
I think that not everything has to be written down in that way, especially if we're giving money out from the city, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's a
I'm gonna put myself into this as well,
This is
I
fine,
agree
but-
with Mr. Shannon.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that argument.
And first, does any objection to hearing from Mr. Ferrer? Hearing none?
I can word that if you guys want it, excuse me, cornbread. I can present some wording if you need it.
I guess let's decide if we need that wording, Mr. Quigley.
Well, I was gonna point out at this point, if you are going to include something in the operations procedure manual, then we at least need to decide which option we're going with. Unless you're gonna try to present both in some way, but they seem conflicting to each other.
Well, it's experimental, sorry,
Oh, no.
it's experimental at this point anyway, so
Right.
since those of us here now know about it, we can spread the word and see who takes advantage of it and how it works out, and then maybe with our experience, get it codified somehow later.
Okay, Mr. Shaw, you were first and then me.
Thank you, and with that in mind, I prefer we not set arbitrary limits on how much we can give out when and just leave it open so we can take it as it comes.
And that's pretty much what I was gonna say. I personally, and I'm not gonna vote on it, but I personally think that we get the word out that we can, that But this is an option for the new affiliates, we give that information to the area coordinators and the affiliate support committee. And this is only for new organizations, so this isn't something that we're even at right now, we've got one that's possibly about to organize, but I think maybe we let it go out to people and maybe we revisit trying to come up with a standing rule at our next executive committee after something maybe has happened where it comes up at least once. Mr. Shannon was first, then Mr. Shaw.
Or, okay.
We've got about a minute left of this agenda item, Mr. Shaw.
I think it's worth mentioning that all three of the regional coordinators are gonna be on this committee, so by the time it's at the committee, the right person's gonna be in touch and they can bring the stuff to us anyway, so it'll be very efficient.
Correct. Anything else?
Madam Chair?
Oh, Mr. Doc.
I have concerns about limiting it only to brand new organizations. For one thing, there are a lot of struggling organizations out there that, I mean, really struggling. And so for them, if you say that it's only for new organizations, they may as well just fold and come and reorganize.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so that will
Or
be
just
the
take
day
it all
we've
together.
expired on this agenda item. However, the only reason why I said that is because the original thing that was brought up was because of new affiliates as they begin to organize. I agree with you, and I think that this is something that we've now talked about it, we get the word out there, we see what happens, and then we can maybe revisit some kind of rule in the future. So, unless there's a motion to extend time further, we've expired on time.
Would extending time mean we could vote on a motion for this?
Well, we don't have a motion yet, but if you extended time, we could at some point create a motion if that's what
It
somebody
would
wanted
extend
to
the
do.
discussion at least, right?
Yeah, extend time, motion to extend time.
For how long?
5 minutes just to put an arbitrary time on this, cause we're all saying the same thing at this point.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and, it was moved by Mr. Dawson and seconded to extend time by 5 minutes, is there any discussion to extend
Do you have a
time?
motion that you're?
Well, I'm thinking, since everybody has an idea for an experiment, I'm just trying to figure out how to word this properly, but, you know, I'd probably make a motion to experiment with helping funding new affiliates who come to us with a proposed budget. I'm just trying to eloquently,
Is the
I wonder
discussion
if we
open on
need-
this right now?
No, this was discussion on extending time, so.
I'm just
No,
trying
that's what I wanted
to
to talk
determine
about.
how to vote for it.
And
I
that's-
wanted to know if there's.
No, I know, but I
That's very
just-
much what I wanted to speak to, I don't feel
Mr.
that further
Shaw.
discussion is necessary unless we actually have a plan to implement something new.
Any other further discussion on extending time by 5 minutes? Okay, we're gonna go to a vote, all those in favor of extending time by 5 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, how, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Fair pass.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm speaking to myself. It passed.
5, 6.
Nays. Oh, sorry, nays, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's 5 in favor, all those opposed? I'm voting it's a tie, so the motion fails. Sorry.
Very good.
No disrespect.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
No disrespect, but I think that we need to, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
5 more minutes probably would have
We're-
consolidated something, so. And I can't do that, so I did, sorry. I've never done that before, by the way.
First time.
First
Hey, that was
time.
the first time we weren't all unanimous about something today.
Orders of the
That was
day.
good. At
Yes.
least some of us disagreed for once.
Okay, everybody, next is elections of the bylaws committee. So the bylaws committee is a committee in our bylaws, and it is a 5-person committee. I am going to just briefly give y'all what this committee is and what it does. And I'm sure y'all know, but I'm gonna do it anyways. The bylaws committee, not later than 60 days following the close of each convention, the executive committee shall appoint a bylaws committee of 5 state central committee members to recommend changes in these bylaws and convention rules. The bylaws committee shall adopt its report not less than 70 days prior to the convention, and the secretary shall cause it to be published on the party's webpage not less than 60 days prior to the convention. So that will leave us now to nominations for the bylaws committee. I know that there are people that have filled out applications. I believe everybody got these applications in the mail if they want to use these as part of their nominating process.
yeah, per the request of, Brandon Nelson, he wanted to nominate a slate of people for this, so he would like to
Well,
nominate.
no,
Oh, sorry.
let me just
Sorry.
interject.
Sorry.
Brandon's not here, so he's
Yeah.
not nominating anybody, so if
Okay.
you're gonna make nominations,
Alright.
you will, and it will not be a slate, you will nominate them one by one.
Oh, okay.
If it's gonna be voted on as a slate later on, we can do that, but this is right now open to nominations.
Okay.
So, Mr. Dawson, who do you nominate?
I nominate, Mr. Dr. Brent, Jill, Brandon Nelson, and Chuck, and myself.
Okay, so we've got, so far, we've got Brett, Jill, Brandon, or Mr. Doctor, Ms. Olson, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Ham, Mr. Dawson. Are there any additional nominations for the bylaws committee? Okay, hearing none, that's 5 nominations for 5 individuals, and there's 5 seats. So it would be in order at this time to vote that we can do this by acclamation as a slate. If somebody would like to make that motion.
I would like to make that motion.
I'm sorry?
I don't think you need to take a vote to do that.
Oh, I believe that you do.
Why would you have a vote to take something by acclamation when acclamation is to not take a vote?
Because it has to be decided if we're gonna do it by ballot. It's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Dawson moved with second from, Chuck, Mr. Ham, that we do this as a slate by acclamation. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition to doing this as a slate? Hearing none. So we will be voting on all 5 individuals, and it's a plain yay or nay vote as to the 5 of them. Nay would be your same option as no, just FYI. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, those are our 5 bylaws committee members. Congratulations. That then brings us to the next on this agenda, which is the platform committee coordinator. On this one, I do know that we have some people that have specifically sent applications for this position. I don't know if anybody has looked at these.
I looked at it. I wanna nominate John David Ward.
I'll second.
You don't need, yeah, you do need a second, or no, you don't, it's just nominations. Okay, so, I guess, in a small committee, you don't need a second for a nomination, so.
I didn't see what the douche is.
I don't know if it was a separate email or part of the chair report. I would sort of chair report.
The name again?
John
John
David
David
Ward
Ward.
from Santa Clara County.
He was the chair.
I will say,
There were a few for this
There were a
position.
couple.
yeah, so, just so you know, just so you know, James Ogle also sent he sent an application, if anybody is so interested in knowing anything about his application. And Kristen Marzak from Riverside County sent an application stating that she would like to be the platform committee coordinator.
You knew who that is, very hardworking lady.
She is actually.
She is. She was my treasurer for my campaign.
Also James
Mr. Chair,
Ogle, as I said, yes.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Marzak.
Okay.
I didn't know she was interested.
That is why I thought it was worth giving
Yeah,
these
where's
names.
under what email was that found?
It was sent out with all of the applications from,
Yeah, Brent
from
sent it.
Brent. Okay, also,
I've got it here, thank you.
I will tell you that Michael Charles, who was here earlier today and he didn't come back, he's from Orange County. He was also interested, and he did not send a resume though, and he currently is not a member of the LPC, he is a registered libertarian. And I thought he came for that reason. John David Ward. And those were all of the applications that were sent in. So is there any further nominations for platform committee coordinator? Okay, so we've got 2 people that are running for, we've got 2 nominations. John David Ward, who is nominated by Mr. Ham.
Can we hear again the name, oh, sorry to disrupt, but can we hear again the names one more time? Just the names of the people that sent in applications?
Oh, yeah, okay, so it was
I
John.
know we had the 2 nominations.
And both of them sent in applications, by the way.
Right.
In addition to that was James Ogle
James Ogle,
and Michael Charles.
Michael Charles.
And Michael Charles was the gentleman that was here earlier this morning with his wife, but
Okay.
apparently they have left.
Okay.
Are there any further nominations for, platform committee coordinator? Okay, seeing none, this will go to a balloted vote. You vote for one person, cause there's only one person available. Just, if people don't have pieces of paper, I can,
I got some for this time.
okay. Alright, so just, write down the name of the person you're voting for, and of course, note it is on the, and I am going to ask if, Mr. Morano would be willing to count these votes?
Here you go. Anybody else need paper?
I love it. I need paper.
Oh, do you,
Yeah, yeah.
do you have paper?
I'll just hold it.
Or
Yeah,
there's
you
what's
got it?
mine?
Okay, here, let me give you like a
Like
proper
the-
square.
no,
Yeah. There you go. Thanks.
Are you voting?
Well, I can give you the.
No, I'll take that one.
Do you want the shaken one?
Do you want another?
Usually you don't want, I'll
I
trade you the
handled
square.
your vote,
Alright.
so
Does
if it
everybody
changed,
have
that's my
paper?
sleight of hand.
We do.
Chris Angel shit.
John David Ward.
Everybody else need
I might
paper,
have mind
going
freaked
once,
your vote
going
to
twice.
say who I wanted it to say.
Save it for later.
Well, there's gonna be other
Blank.
votes that you told me.
Kristen? You're good at hard time, remember? Wrong Texas. Yeah.
I knew you
I
remembered that,
remember
Jay.
that.
And the first word of the text message is the first one. Yeah. So I did.
Anybody else?
I got 2 right here.
He's voting twice?
I've got this first.
Has everybody voted? Everybody's given their votes to, okay, so while he's counting those votes, we can't go to the next item of business because I don't think that it would have any bearing on this. The next item of business is to elect the program committee. And that is a committee of 5, again, and it is. Well, the program will take me 2 seconds to get to. Okay, so. I'm sorry, I apologize, I should have been more ready for this. Page 15.
Yeah, she throw a stone hit from here.
Okay, so the party program shall consist of up to 5 planks which state interim measures and practical policies designed to implement the party positions on issues of interest to California. The program shall not conflict with the statement of principles. And the program committee shall be a standing committee of 5 central committee members selected by the executive committee. The program committee may at any time, by a majority vote, recommend the adoption, amendment, or deletion of a plank. That's the relevant portion for what we're doing now. The rest goes into how they do these. So this is a committee of 5 people, and I'm opening nominations for this committee.
Did we receive any?
Yes. And Mr. Shaw.
Madam Chair, I nominate Bruce Dubner, who has expressed interest in the job.
Okay. Okay, and then just.
I'd like to nominate, Jason Quintero, if he'd be interested in serving on that.
As you did on it, yes, I will do it.
It's okay, it's nothing you can blame me for. I'm the butt of everyone's hire. I'm so good at it.
Those were the only 2, there was no applications for this particular committee, so.
Well, now I'm nervous.
Okay,
don't know.
Very quickly, I'm gonna go back to the last vote, so, John David Ward was elected as the program committee or platform committee coordinator. The vote was 8 for John Ward and 4 for Kristen Marlett, so I'll give that to you. Congratulations, John, wherever you are. Okay, back to program committee, any additional? I believe, although she's not here to say so, I was under the impression that Gail Lightfoot was actually coming to this meeting today, which she sent about a gazillion emails about coming to this meeting today. And I believe that she was coming to be a part of this committee.
I'll nominate Gail.
I believe that's why she was coming, and she surprisingly didn't show up. I don't know what happened to her. Okay, so that's 3, and this is a committee of 5.
I will also nominate myself.
Madam Chair, I also nominate myself.
Okay, so that is Mr. Shannon, nominated by Mr. Shannon, Mr. Shaw, nominated by Mr. Shaw.
Probably could have worked that out a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys could have.
You pulled the trigger faster, so.
Okay, I wasn't gonna volunteer you.
No one's jumping up. I think it's a useful committee that I'd like to see do better than it's done in previous years, so I volunteer.
And is there any other nominations? Right now we've got 5 nominations for 5 positions.
I will happily drop out if somebody else wants to be on here.
Second.
Well,
I like you too.
you know, I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna volunteer myself for this committee because that seems really weird. But I would be more than happy
I
to help
nominate
this.
Edie. I withdraw my nomination. For
No,
honor.
I
Oh.
declined the nomination. But I was gonna say, I would absolutely be willing to help in any way I can with this. Just personally, cause I believe in the program, and
Justin, did you do something?
Oh, I was just gonna move to nominate you 5 as a slate.
Okay, so we've got 5 nominations for 5 positions, and I do believe that Mr. Quigley just, suggested, or he moved that we do this as a slate. Is there a second?
I'd like to nominate Justin Quigley.
I decline.
So you don't wanna do it then?
If somebody else would like to, I'd be happy to. I'll fill it.
I'll nominate myself, so Boomer.
I'll nominate Rick, so you can knock me out.
Okay, so you are not willing to serve, you are not willing
I'm
to serve on
withdrawing
the
my nomination for
nomination.
me.
Alright, and in that case, we have Mr. Dawson.
I was trying to lead from the front, right? Get some people, no, go for it.
And again,
And we all admire you for it.
Okay. Again, so we've got 5 nominations, and again, I'm gonna reiterate, I would be more than happy to be very involved in this because I truly believe in the program. As a former candidate twice, it's something that I actually used, more so than any other thing we have in the party because it was very helpful. I think it's important, so I'm willing to help in any way. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to do this.
Who was the second?
I'm sorry?
Who was the second on the vote by slate motion?
I don't think it ever did.
We have
I'll second.
Okay, it's hadn't been seconded, I think I heard somebody else saying something. Okay, now it's been moved and
Probably
seconded, Mr. Dawson that seconded it. Is there any objection to voting by acclamation as a slate? Hearing none, all those in favor of the slate, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, which would be the same as a no to say nay. Hearing none, those 5, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, and I think that you guys are gonna do an awesome job.
I'm gonna do it just to troll Rebecca. I'm gonna try.
Okay. That is funny. Okay, next on the agenda is election of the budget committee. Budget committee is a 4-member committee that is in our operating procedures manual. That's the thing that we voted on earlier today. That is not a bylaws mandated committee, but it is a standing committee in our rules. And what that committee does is, the chair of that committee is the treasurer, and then 4 members are selected by this committee, and it's their job over the course of the rest of this fiscal year to, propose a budget for the next fiscal year, which is 2020. That budget would then be approved by that committee, brought to us at our final executive committee meeting of the fiscal year, and approved for our next year's budget. So there are 4 spots available on this committee, and I'm opening up nominations. Okay, so let's look at the applications again. I don't think anybody said they wanted to do this one either. This is an important committee, and by the way, I think that they worked very effectively last year.
Who was on it last year?
Last year was Mr. Shannon was one of the members on it. Who were the other members, Steve? Boomer was on it for sure.
Was?
You were on everything, dude.
Yeah,
I
you
was not on
were.
everything last
You
year.
did
I was on
great.
one thing last year.
You were on the budget committee.
The budget.
I remember his comment was we actually had a budget that looked like a budget.
That was your budget. That
I'd like to
You
know-
put a budget that I like, what do you want me to say?
And also, he's
Well,
the
I
one that
tried.
moved to adopt the budget, or to recommend the budget as presented.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Marzak, if she'll accept. We're finding out right now.
Okay, she would actually probably be very, very good on that committee, I think.
Also, man.
I know she had also applied for the financial standards committee, I don't think someone should be on both, so.
The
Well, but
financial
it's already
standards
filled.
committee has already been populated in our last executive committee.
I nominate Boomer.
Okay, so we've got Kristen, we've got Boomer,
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Shannon actually.
Mr. Boomer, everybody call him.
Mr. Dr. Good.
Yeah, I'll make you a doctor too, why not? And actually, Chuck, are you a doctor as well?
Yes. It's a
Okay.
Juris Doctor, but.
Well, let's do a
nobody-
doctor's.
Nobody uses that for Juris Doctor, though.
I know they don't, but I'm just being.
I
Anyway,
nominate Jill.
I'm Master Paul here, by the way.
Master?
Master Paul.
I'm sorry, I can't call you master, I just can't do it.
I got the degree.
He tried in the campaign to out of office.
Unfortunately, it just has other connotations, so.
And I can't say like it.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Just can't do it, just can't. Okie dokie, any other, we've got 2 so far out of 4.
I'll get on that.
The chair.
Okay, Mr.
nominate
Ham,
Chair.
okay, Mr. Dawson nominated Mr.
Seems like
Dr.
it's
Ham.
not too many meetings.
Dude, it's usually
It's
just
really
like,
not.
put the budget, looks good to me, carry on.
The way that it usually, okay, so I'm just gonna interject here. So really, the importance of this committee, the members on it, is they're there to help the treasurer look at things like, we put in a $2,000 budget a year for each area coordinator, but we didn't say what it was for. We need to have somebody that looks at what we need to spend. Also, right now, we've got, however many thousands of dollars of over. Look at a realistic budget. Last year it was a very realistic budget that turned out being very conservative, which is good, because then we have extra money. But it's an important committee, and it's really just there to assist the treasurer, because ultimately it's the treasurer that does the bulk of the work, because he's the chair.
He's the chairman.
He's the chair and I'm the treasurer. That being said, did I move anybody to be that 4th spot?
I'll do it.
I'll nominate Wendy to do it.
Okay. You know, this is sad. We need to get to a point where people wanna do this stuff, you know? I mean, they really want
No, I
to.
think it's perfect that they don't want to.
Wouldn't be
Very good
great.
that they're doing real things.
How much did we do to
Getting
communicate
people
this to
elected.
the broad membership, like that this was going on?
I did a letter to the chair, from the
I saw
chair
It
to
was
all
put on
membership.
social
It was
media, it was
social
put on the
media.
website, and
It was also sent
by
out to
email.
every single county organization.
And I don't ask to criticize only because I'm kind of detached right now and I haven't seen it yet.
No, fair enough. It's just, it went out several different ways via email and social media, so
Order of the day.
Kristen accepted the nomination.
Cool.
that's what I was waiting for, by the
Oh,
way.
okay.
So we have enough, right,
Perfect.
now?
Yeah,
That
we
gives
do.
us 4 because she accepted the nomination. Okay, so we've got 4 nominations for 4 positions. Mr.
I'd like
Doctor?
to move to accept this slate as by acclamation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objections? Hearing none, all those in favor of this slate, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, you guys, I really appreciate it. Boy.
And that final list was?
It is
Kristen, Boomer, Rick, and
Chuck.
Wendy.
Chuck, right?
I'm sorry, not
No,
Chuck,
actually,
Rick, Chuck,
it's-
yeah.
Rick is not on this one, it's
I
Kristen,
know,
Boomer,
I was looking at
Chuck.
Rick, talking about Chuck.
And then our chair.
Okay, so now this one, I think a lot of people do want to be on.
We'll start budgeting for guns then.
Okay, orders of the day, we are at election of the social media committee.
Supposed to be trap shooting this morning.
As I mentioned earlier, that committee is now 6 members appointed by this committee, with the chair being appointed by the chair of the party. I will tell you that what I said before is I have appointed, John Ferrero as the chair of this committee. However, I am going to ask that once this committee is seated, that they hold an internal election for whoever the chair of that committee will be. Mr. Shannon.
I'd like to nominate Joshua Smith.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to nominate Joshua Smith.
Okay. Mr. Quintero.
I'd like to nominate Elizabeth Stump.
Okay, that was
Okay, I just really quickly, I am gonna let you know the people that asked, that filled out applications for this. Because on this one, there are some. One of them is Rachel. She, by the way, is currently on that committee doing an awesome job with growing our Twitter. She's doing a great job.
I nominate Rachel.
Okay.
Second.
Get right to it.
Okay, so, I knew that would happen when I said that. Rachel, Johnson.
Johnson, yeah.
And I know that, that Angela McCardle would like to be on that committee. She sent in an application.
I nominate Angela.
Okay, so Angela McCardle has been nominated by Rick Dawson. And those are the people that have sent applications.
I'd like to nominate Kalish Morrow.
Okay. Okay, so far we've got 3 nominations. No, we've got 4
6.
nominations. We've got 5. Sorry, I got behind. So who do we have? We've got, the chair doesn't count.
Okay, we got 5.
We need 6.
You need one more.
So right now we've got Josh Smith, Elizabeth Stump, Rachel Johnson, Angela McCardle, Kalish Morrow, Mr.
I'd also like to nominate Justin Quigley.
Okay, Justin Quigley has been nominated. Any additional nominations for that committee?
I'd like to nominate myself, if I can.
Yes, you can nominate.
Nominate yourself.
Alright.
Okay, so, he's been nominated.
I would've nominated you.
Out of curiosity, I'm just gonna ask this question. One of our previous members, Eduardo Flores, did he express interest in remaining?
He hasn't to me
Okay,
personally.
I just am asking, cause Ovens O'Brien is also a current member. I don't believe that she's expressed interest in remaining.
I know Eduardo has plans to start spending more time in Hawaii and splitting his time between
Okay,
the
no,
two.
fair enough. I just wanted to throw that out there. It wasn't
Right,
for
so
discussion.
I hate
it
to
was-
nominate him without knowing his
I just was
plans.
wondering if he expressed interest. Okay, so any other nominations for this committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to close nominations.
Okay, it's been moved to close nominations. Any objection? Hearing none, we are closing the nominations. So in this particular case, now we have we have 7 people that have been nominated for 6 positions. So we will go to a vote on this as a ballot. You will be putting down up to 7 names. You could do less, but you can't put more than 7
Can you
names.
read all the people?
I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm gonna read it off, or you can vote NOTA, and if you vote NOTA, you only are voting NOTA, so do not vote some names
There
and
can't be
then.
more than 6 people on the committee, we can just go to a slate and get them all on there.
Yeah.
We cannot because it's in our operating procedures manual unless we want to revisit that, however, I would suggest that if somebody is not elected to this committee, that we now have, things like the content creation team and things like that, that people can also be part of and still be part of volunteering with the committee, but not necessarily on the committee. So, yeah, we have, I will read the names again. The people nominated were Josh Smith, Elizabeth Stump, Rachel Johnson, Angela McCardle, Kalish Morrow, Justin Quigley, and Jason Quintero. You can vote for up to 6 people or less. You don't have to vote for all 6, or you can vote for no, and that would be the only vote that you would be making if you vote no.
Read it one more time, please.
Read it one more time. Please.
Okay, Joshua Smith, Elizabeth Stump, Rachel Johnson, Angela McCardle, Kalish Morrow, Justin Quigley, and Jason Quintero.
No, let me, pull that front paper back, I might want it back.
Mr. Naranjo, will you vote on these again? I see you're already getting ready, so I figured you were. I saw you already making a list.
I think social media is inherently naughty.
Yeah.
Seems nice social
I
media.
have to concur.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so is that everybody has given their votes to Mr. Naranjo?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I'm actually thinking about this, no, not yet.
Yeah, there were some good choices on this one.
Yeah.
Don't vote for Jason.
They don't have Wi-Fi in the country.
I've considered it, no.
He didn't vote for anybody, too. He was telling everybody at lunch who he didn't vote for.
No, that was Justin. Justin.
I'm sorry, not Jason, Justin.
Yeah, that was Justin, not
I thought you
Jason.
said Justin.
Transparency, man. All it takes is a little boost.
Well, Jason Quintero and Justin Quigley are.
Yeah, Jason Q and Justin
Q is
Q,
just
man.
hard.
I know, it's really funny because we've got a lot of J's on it this time. We've got Josh, we've got Justin, we've got Jason, we've got
Jill.
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 I knew there was another one in there.
It's like a Mormon family.
Yeah.
Okay, so, while those votes are being counted, cause this may take a little bit more than a minute than it did last time. The next order of business is going to be to elect the 2 positions for Communications and Marketing Committee. Again, there are 2 positions of this committee that are appointed by the executive committee. The other 2 positions that are currently open will be populated by 1 person each from the website committee and the social media committee. So to be clear, there's only 2 people that will be elected from this committee, and we do have people that have requested to be part of that committee. Oh, and this guy I like because he wants to be on the style committee, just saying. Okay, so I'm opening up nominations. I will tell you the people that have sent in applications for this.
Damn it, there's the mute button. Yes, my theme song is Dallas. You saw how I dressed at the convention? Come on, man. JRQ.
Oh, that's just too good. Okay, that's just too good. One moment, guys. Just to let you know, the people that are interested in this that sent in applications are Marvin Bird, who is a member of State National, registered as Libertarian. He sent in a resume if anybody would like to look at it. We also have, John Dredz, who is in Riverside. However, he is not a member of the state party and he didn't send a resume.
Strong candidate.
Very strong.
Just saying.
Riverside strong.
Great.
Elizabeth Stumpf
That'd be so
also
good
sent a
resume.
resume. She would very much like to be a part of this committee.
No.
Elizabeth Stump.
Elizabeth Stumpf, so,
Very good.
so we've got, the volunteer, or the people that sent applications again are Marvin Bird, if anybody wants to see, he did send a resume, and Elizabeth Stumpf.
We have a Matthias
Can you pass his down?
Palmer. Does anybody know what he wanted to do?
Style committee and something else, credentialing.
Yeah, Montrose, that's his
Credentialing.
name.
Yeah, Montrose wanted to do style and credentialing.
Yeah, I don't believe that he wanted to do this committee. And then Elizabeth Stumpf, I don't know if anybody needs, but she sent a resume with hers as well.
I'd like to nominate Elizabeth Stump and Felicia Morrow for this committee.
Second. For nomination?
Okay, so we've got 2 positions available, and let me just double check myself to make sure there's nobody else that's.
This guy sent in a resume. No, we sent in a resume. I'll nominate Marvin Boyd, I think the guy's name.
Bird.
Bird.
Marvin Bird, yeah.
I do not know him or anything about him, but.
He sent a good resume.
That was a Y or an I?
And Elizabeth
Why,
Stumpf
sir?
also sent a resume, just FYI.
Bird with an I. That's strong.
Okay, so that is, that is 3 people nominated for this. Are there any additional nominations? Okay, I'm going to close nominations.
Here, let me look at it.
Oh, sorry.
I am going to close nominations then if there's no other nominations. So on this one, again, we're going to go to a balloted vote. There are 3 nominations for 2 seats. You can vote for 1 or 2 people, no more than 2, or NOTA, which would take the place of voting for anybody.
Can you read off our options again?
Elizabeth Stumpf, Kalish Morrow, and Marvin Bird, who's the one that sent the resume.
Who, his resume actually looks pretty good.
Does anybody know Marvin?
I don't know him, I thought his resume,
He seems like a
He
good
has
person.
a nice resume.
I want to know Marvin.
He's,
you seem emotional about wanting to know him.
Yeah.
Marvin Bird, not Marvin Bird.
Send us a resume, people, come on.
he put in the time.
Elizabeth Stump also sent a resume.
She did, yeah, no, I said that, I asked if anybody wanted to see it.
Kalish didn't send in a resume.
No, she wants it. I'm gonna have, Mr. Ferrera, would you be willing to collect these ballots? This should be easier, or would you like somebody else to do it?
Totally impartial on this.
Are you? Well, I thought so, the way you said it though, you something
We did sound sarcastic, didn't we?
It did, right?
I wasn't sold.
He's like, I am impartial on this.
I know, it's like, wait, am I missing something? You're
That did-
impartial?
Yeah, that vote didn't occur.
Mid-South Park reference.
Okay.
Software.
No, I just set it down and forgot
Oh,
about it.
South Park.
Okay,
I started with.
so I'll tell you guys what, the next thing that we're gonna go to on the agenda is gonna be these state legislative bills.
So we have 2 nominees, but just 1 position, is that what
There's,
you said?
no, there's 3 nominees, 2
Three nominees.
positions.
Okay, thank you. Told you I was looking impartial.
To counting?
Okay, so.
That's called complacent.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do, unless there's like some major, somebody saying this is a bad thing to do. I think that we are gonna end up with some discussion on these legislative bills, which we have 15 minutes for. We're counting 2 different votes, which I think one of them has been decided. As soon as I give the answer to this, I'm gonna say that we stand at ease for approximately 5-ish minutes. As long as nobody, also bathroom, but yeah.
Yeah, no great. they don't kick me out of
We need to break.
That's just.
Well, yeah.
Or should I put outside? Is that what you're suggesting? Should I smoke in the bathroom or should I be outside? Is what you're suggesting? Because I can totally combine the two.
Man, you want to get your own business.
Go smoke in the bathroom, they go outside the list. There you go. That's how you
That's
do it.
freedom.
That's how you do it right there.
And we have 7 on this committee, right? So that's- Okay,
Yes, we are.
alright.
All in good fun. I don't
Okay,
think we
before
need
we
to-
go to, before we go to our standing at ease, there were 6 positions available on this, so the 6 elected were Elizabeth Stump, Angela McCardle, Rachel Johnson, Kalish Morrow, Justin Quigley, and Jason Quintero. Josh Smith only got 5 votes, which wouldn't have been enough even if he were one of the ones, because it would have had to be a majority.
He sucks.
I know, what the fuck?
And just for the record, the vote count was Kalish got 12 votes, Jason Quintero got 11 votes, Rachel Johnson got 11 votes, Justin Quigley got 9 votes, Angela McCardle got 9 votes, Elizabeth Stump got 8 votes, and as I said, Josh Smith got 5, so that is the 6 members of that committee in addition to John Ferrero. I will tell you that 1 vote did not get counted because somebody put Justin Smith, and that could have either been Josh Smith or Justin Quintero.
I know a couple of Justin Smiths. Can I call them and let them know they got a vote?
So just
They're not part of the
FYI,
party or nothing. They might be happy just.
That might convince them.
Whoever
Yeah, they might
voted,
join from that shit, huh?
whoever voted for Justin Smith, we didn't know who you really voted for, so it didn't count. Okay.
Well, let's go by first names.
Good try, Josh, you almost made 6.
Hey, my mother's maiden name is Smith. Is that close enough?
Is that legible?
It's legible, I got,
So you just not showing that.
My mother's maiden name is Smith. I say we give it
Do
to
you want to
you.
run it as an instant runoff?
You got a tie?
Just saying. I could have been Smith.
okay, so Elizabeth Smith,
Now everyone's a Smith.
I think I know who made that vote, Madam Chair.
Elizabeth Stump has been elected. The votes, we don't have anybody else that got a majority. So this will have to go to another vote, or we can possibly do it differently. So,
Are we still on
Marvin,
social media or on communications?
this is on communications director. Marvin got 6 votes, Kalish got 5 votes, Noda got 1 vote, and Elizabeth got 10 votes. So, we've got what we could do, somebody could make a motion that Marvin was the next highest amount of votes, so he did, huh?
I said that.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept Marvin by acclamation, rather than going to a second ballot. Is there anybody opposed to doing so?
How many votes did Marvin get?
I'm sorry?
6.
He got
He got 6, Kalish got 5.
And Elizabeth got what?
10. Elizabeth is on the committee, she got 10 votes. You need to get a minimum of a majority,
Gotcha, okay.
and the other 2 didn't.
Gotcha.
He got the second highest amount, so.
Okay.
So, that being said, it's been moved and seconded to,
Second from,
it was the one.
got it.
So, all those in favor, and again, Noda is an option, but that would be a nay vote. All those in favor of Marvin say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so Marvin is the other member of that committee, so the 2 committee members elected by this committee are Marvin B, I'm gonna call him B because it's Bird, right? And Elizabeth Stump Smith, whatever, just kidding. Okay, so that concludes all of our elections. We could go on to the next thing, although I've got people really excited about that standing at ease for 5 minutes.
Sounds great.
That was a program.
So we're standing at ease for 5 minutes.
Follow my Facebook page. I should not be.
Which one is that? Budget?
I would say
No,
probably we should.
the social media committee, it'll just be about tax cuts and guns, we need to diversify our content a little bit.
I like the social.
Hey, I'm
My
Rick.
name's Bruce Dovner.
Nice to meet you, Bruce.
Yes.
Oh, Bruce, I'm Jason
Bruce
Quintero.
Dovner. We're on the program committee together.
Awesome. Oh, there we go.
So,
Cool.
Yeah, so I suppose we'll communicate by email.
Probably, yeah.
So,
That way, it's like
I was
the-
a guy who got that language in the bylaws way back
Thank you
when,
so much.
probably about 20 years ago.
Thank you. Oh,
Okay.
So, and it got changed to be nominated by the, and, adopted by the
Yeah.
committee, but anyway, good to
Good.
meet you.
And by the way, Paul,
We'll talk a
that
lot
would
more.
go to your
For sure.
possession, and then it's up to you what you do with them after.
You can throw them away.
You can keep them
That's for
forever and
everything that's
ever
been
and
voted
ever.
so far. That's
Okay.
the whole stack.
Okay.
Alrighty, I'll treasure them always.
They've always been part of me, just. But, feel free. This is how I stand at ease. I sit.
Actually, I think my ass could probably stand a break.
You watched the show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine? You ever seen that one where they're having like the Olympics for who can sit in the chair the longest and go through like get down the stairs and shower and everything without ever getting out of the chair? It's a great show.
Hitchcock and, what's the other one?
Scully.
Yeah. By far my favorite characters. I mean, everyone else has got some good lines, but every time they say something, I fucking love it. About I don't know, a week or two ago, you commented on something I posted, or said you had commented on something, right? You're like, Rachel Johnson. Who the fuck is Rachel Johnson? And so then I looked at your picture, I'm like, kinda looks like Matt. I go back some pictures, I'm like, that is it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't be the first.
I was like, alright.
Yeah. See, all the people that knew me before, they didn't have to do anything because I did all the work of changing it. But then anyone I meet afterwards, it's like it's a whole conversation you gotta have right off the bat. Like, what's her name, Caitlin Cloven or whoever who she is. She does like social media stuff. Like we were at the talking outside the convention. She was like, "Oh, like nice to meet you. Add me on Facebook." And I was like, "Oh, well, okay, so just okay." Because by that point, it's like I've waited too long. I can't say, "Oh, I don't have Facebook," because then it's like, what, it took me that long to remember I don't have Facebook. So I just was like, "Oh, I guess this is happening." So I did notice it was pending for a while for you, the friend request, but I figured that's what that was.
See, I'm on VIP list. He added me on Facebook.
Well, see, people have to. Nobody finds me organically.
See, you don't find Tim. Tim finds you.
No, Matt and I, sorry, Rachel and I met as Matt.
Gotcha.
So when the Rachel Johnson was
Yeah.
there, I didn't know.
Gotcha.
You kind of met me like after.
Oh, after you started to
Yeah.
transition? Oh, gotcha.
At least in this setting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Whereas I was just a doughy-eyed fat boy living in the South Bay, wondering how to be a libertarian, showing up in Pasadena and not knowing who the hell any of these people are.
I showed him the way, and I did so well. Just kept going, and I was like, whoa.
I remember sitting at the table and being the only person who hadn't run for Congress. And I was just like,
Yeah, to write a fucking passage around here. Nah, seriously, I was like just fucking chilling on my couch, playing a quick game of PlayStation, thinking about, man, I'm gonna have a lot of free time over this next month, right? And I get a call, hey, would you like to run for Congress? It's like, yeah, I mean, I was gonna like play some PlayStation and take a nap.
it's like,
sure.
it's either that or jack off.
But here's the thing, they don't. I was trying to clean
And
up
then
my
what would I do
humor.
tomorrow?
I was gonna rub one out and take a nap, but sure, yeah, Congress.
I mean, let's be clear. You can rip one out and be in Congress at the same time. That's half of what being a congressman is. I remember when I was.
I would be like the Louis C.K. of Congress. Oh, God.
You'd be like the Al Franken of congressman.
Al Franken, yeah.
See, here's why I don't think Franken should have got kicked out. He was elected with those pictures already there, and it was never brought up. And it wasn't like those pictures were taken post Me Too.
And it's not like you wouldn't kind of already expect some famous SNL comedian to have like a raunchy nightlife.
And let's be real. There was a sailor sleeping on watch, so he fucked with her. That wasn't like
Not on watch.
Oh, she wasn't on watch?
They were just on a plane.
Oh, they were on a plane. Oh, gotcha. I did not know that part. Okay, then that's a dick move. Well, it's a dick move either way. Keep your fucking hands to yourself. But, you know. I mean, usually if you wanted to sexually assault somebody, I would assume you wouldn't have photographic evidence of it.
It was a different time back in the 70s. You wouldn't remember.
Yeah. No, that was like, those photos were what? Like from like 2010?
They were, yeah. I mean, they were after he was elected as a senator.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, they
I don't remember.
So anyways, they've been out in the
Much
public
more
sphere for a while, and I feel like if it's that egregious, you leave it in the hands of the people who elected him to be like, hey, do you still want this asshole? And if it's that bad, they pick a new guy.
At least they didn't pick Roy Moore.
Roy Moore? The fucking the yearbooks. What was his thing? So was he like was he just hitting on these girls? Like what was the thing against Roy Moore? I forget because you know that was seven scandals ago.
Like hitting on and allegedly dating a bunch of like questionable age girls.
Oh, gotcha. In a state where even though it's legal, it's still not.
Well, no, I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was like still illegal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, ew.
Like it's not like 17, but tomorrow's your birthday. Like
we're talking like
oh,
down there.
like I gotta be home by 8. You know?
Oh, shoot. See, I didn't know that part.
Or like when you ask her like the type of people where when you ask them what grade they're in, they say like sophomores.
Not in college.
Not to be not college. No.
Oh my god.
When it's like, how old are you? Not old enough. Those types of girls.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, good riddance. Is he still a judge or?
No, because he got not disbarred, but like disbenched.
Gotcha. So he can practice law, but he can't be a judge.
I'm not sure how far the punishment went. I know he was removed from the bench. I don't know how that affected his ABA accreditations.
You know, I plan to leave politics the way everybody should. Handcuffs.
Like, you know, in jail cell or like in your room.
A lofty goal, brother. I'm with you.
You meant like.
Well, look, you try to change the world. You can't do that. Go full blown corrupt.
Do you know what freaked me out the other day?
No.
Was I started to think
You're
about my
trying to
heroes, and I realized they were all criminals, like Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning and Ross Ulbricht. All the people I admire most, and the real humans, you know, not Batman and Punisher and all the cool ones, but I mean, like the real people, they're all fucking criminals. Yeah, they're all like in jail cells right now. That really makes me worried about my future. Well, man, this is what happens when you stand for something.
Well, I mean, Punisher is technically a criminal.
Anti-hero.
He's the anti-hero. No.
I mean, if you ask the government, Captain America is a villain.
Mm-hmm. But they made him. They built him. That's their fault.
But then they tried to regulate him, and that was
Punisher
bad.
Nightmare series. They actually gave Frank Castle a similar. he has, they gave him an injection similar to Captain America, which is why he heals relatively quickly.
Is that how they explain that?
That's how they explained it. Cause, yeah, even Nightmare was yelling, it's like, you can't die, you've had your rib shot off. He literally named off every injury the Punisher's ever had. It's like, and here you are.
I never found the Punisher's philosophy compelling at all, but I was always interested in like that. I don't have any superpowers, but I'm gonna stop all the superheroes. Like I'm fucking a one-man army type shit.
Look, he's the most efficient of the superheroes.
And I don't even know if you could rightly call him a superhero, but unlike all these other like I'm here to save the day and get the girl, and like it's all very justice-y. This was like a very dark story where it's like that doesn't work. Those people die. There are no heroes. The world is fucked up. And I was always more interested in stories like that.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a pessimist, quite the opposite, but because the main story bores me. You've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
You've seen the main superhero.
So were you a big Watchmen fan?
It was pretty good. Yeah, the graphic novels were better than the movie.
Well, yeah, the graphic. Yeah.
It was
I don't care about the movie.
I liked, was it X-Force? Like they weren't good enough to be X-Men, but they were like
Yeah.
the Misfits.
Oh, they made fun of that on Deadpool.
Could I get
Deadpool
back
started
Marvin's resume, possibly? Does anybody have it?
So somebody has like met that guy to know he's cool, right?
I've never heard of him. I voted no.
Okay.
I was the one noted because I didn't know any of those people and nobody gave a compelling, like, I trust this person personally, so I was like, I can't rightly vote for someone I don't
Well,
know.
I can
can't
tell you
vote.
that Elizabeth comes highly recommended, especially from John Ferrero. She's been very involved.
Yeah, I know her, she's
She's on
outstanding.
the content.
Yeah, she's.
And I wasn't even looking to, like, they might be great, I just, they don't need my consent, they all got on the page properly.
No, I get it. Now,
I
Marvin,
would
I
hope
gotta be
you
honest
voted for
with you,
me.
I'd like his resume back because I don't know who he is, and so I would need to contact him to let him know. I can print it again, but I just figured if I do that, fair enough as well.
Yeah, just I would feel good, like just one person just tells me he's
Since we're going separate ways.
Well, I mean, I can't vote, but I've met him.
Oh, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he sat across from me at the bank one. I'm starting in the club, like a mental.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So just like, I don't know how he is politically, but at the table setting, he seemed like a nice guy.
There's an agenda right here.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that you don't have to reinvent the wheel too.
Just don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, be a little creative with it.
Right.
Okay, before we get back to work, does anybody have Marvin's, thank you. As I said, I don't know who he is, so I need his information, so I can contact him to let him know that. His resume's good.
Yeah, it is.
I think that he'll be probably very good, it's just I don't know who he is. And apparently nobody else does either, so.
So hopefully he is good.
Riverside? Is that what you said?
Rachel and I are pretty sure that we met Marvin. Sat across from him at
Well, because we called him Starvin' Marvin, and he ate the butter because he thought it was candy.
And my opinion did not give a darn. It was the other guy.
His resume was fantastic though, so I'm gonna have all kinds of shit.
Oh my God, that's the part.
Oh, I'm in for at least a few.
That means order.
Mr. Howe.
We're doing very important business here.
Okay, we're back in order at 2:23, and we breezed through those elections, so we're still actually on time. I'm giving you this because it came in the mail. I'm going to give it to Mark and you can keep it. Okay, so that brings us to the next agenda item, which is the state legislature bills. Just to give a little background as to why I put this on the agenda, prior to the convention, I had received an email, which I'm looking for right now, from several counties asking that the party take a position on these bills. These bills, although some of them not as cleanly as far as you kinda wanna see them, but they all kind of revolve around vaccination legislation. And, they are compelling people to, they're giving reasons why we should require vaccinations. It gives more power to the state. It causes things to be considered, emergencies because of the fact that we've got outbreaks in things like measles. And they're using that as a way to circumvent certain provisions that we currently have, which is doctors can give exemptions and so forth. And it's right here. So just, thank you. I would have kept going through these papers forever. So I'm going to read you briefly the email that I got, and I will tell you who the undersigned were. And I believe some of these people are actually, at least, I thought, didn't you sign on to this, Jill? No? Okay, Kalish did.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So there's really nobody here to speak on in terms of the people that signed on to it, but it says, Dear Madam Chair, we, the undersigned officers of the Libertarian Party of California and its affiliates, petition the Chair, Honor Mimi Robson, to immediately submit a stance of opposition on behalf of the Libertarian Party of California on the following bills. AB 262, they wrote SB 267, it's actually SB 276, and SB 421. In addition to them, in essence, subsidizing the pharmaceutical industry, we hold that these bills are an existential threat to parental rights as well as individual life, liberty, and autonomy. Holding that self-ownership is one of the fundamental concepts of libertarianism, and that parents best suited to make decisions regarding their children, we defy the idea that the state should be able to compel individuals to make decisions involving their own bodies and reject the concept that a government or its agencies should be able to force individuals to put substances into their bodies. The state and its agents should not be able to deny the freedom of individuals to exempt themselves or their children from medical services. The effects of these bills would mandate vaccines, crack down on doctors who have written medical exemptions for their patients, with philosophical and religious exemptions having already been dispensed with by the state, creates health officers who are authorized to enforce the will of the state by any means necessary, and would penalize parents who fail to meet certain directives of the state. We would also like to bring to the Chair's attention that a similar resolution was passed via email following the July 2015 LPC Executive Committee meeting. While not taking a stance of being either pro or anti-vaccine, endorsed a ballot initiative to repeal SB 277, which mandated vaccines, and the repeal of which would have supported healthcare choice and health freedom. We believe that this resolution supports our arguments for asking that you oppose these bills. We petition you to follow in the steps of previous executive committee and take the same stand by immediately submitting statements of opposition to AB 262, SB 276, and SB 421. This petition is submitted by the following officers with the request to be sent by Brandon Nelson, while the rest of those signed on the petition are carbon copies of this email. We thank you for your time in reviewing our petition and concerns, and hope that you will submit opinions on this bill swiftly and accordingly. It's signed Angela McCardle, Chair of Los Angeles County, and at the time Secretary of the Libertarian Party of California, John Ferrero, Chair of Alameda County, Kalish Morrow, Chair of Kings County, Devin Harris, Chair of Fresno County, Brandon Nelson, Vice Chair of Solano County, Janine DeRose, Chair of Sacramento County, Gia Christopher, Chair of Placer County, and Emily Hinkle-Tilford, Treasurer of Sacramento County. I'm going to state further that at that time prior to the convention, there is nothing specific in our platform that gave me the feeling that I could act unilaterally on this, because it's not specifically in our platform. I didn't feel that as chair I could submit this without going to the executive committee. It was right before, we had already had our last executive committee meeting. There wasn't time for an email motion. I tried to do an operations committee meeting, that didn't happen, so now here we are. So what they're asking is that we take a position in terms of a resolution that would be then followed with notification to the various committees that are hearing these bills, saying that we oppose these and other bills like them that would take away the autonomy of parents and would give more rights to the state. I, this last week, sent out a lot of information on these. I did not print it all out. I hope that everybody had a chance to look at it. Again, there was a typo originally. It said 267, which is a completely different bill. It's 276, which specifically is about vaccines. And this would essentially just take any rights away from the individual to make these choices on their own. And so I'm going to open this to discussion or possible motions.
I've got a question. I'm new to this whole debate. So, but the more that I read through all the language of the bills, the proposals, and the protests, the objections, I don't ever find any language that forces an individual to get vaccinated, and that's what they keep arguing. I never see that. What I do see is that they can't go to school if they're not vaccinated. That to me seems like that seems apples and oranges. So then and I'm not one way or the other, by the way. When I make these arguments, I have not made up my mind about this. So what about the parents who do vaccinate their children, and do they not also have a right to not get exposed to kids who might have been infected who were not vaccinated because they made that choice? I don't see a force issue in any of this language. I think that's the most compelling argument right now that I'd like to raise.
And I've read through this as well. I do see certain, especially in SB 421, that does give the state, or at least their agencies, the ability to declare a communicable disease emergency, which at that point does give them authorization to force vaccinations. So it is in the language, not really overtly, but it's there. But I agree with you that I think that individuals should have choice, but I think that also the other individuals should have the same choice to protect their children from with herd immunity. So I agree with you on that. So
Is there any precedent for a vaccination being forced? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Does anybody know?
Just like you said, for school.
It's in the open debate all the
It's
time.
not forced for school.
Well, not
it's
forced
required.
for
You can't
school,
go to
but
school.
required, but
Right.
that's, yeah.
You can't
Not
attend school.
forced, but just.
But they're not gonna take you to a doctor and physically force
I
you
think
to get
they're
an injection.
advocates for that notion, but I don't know that there's any proposals forward for it yet. But I mean, that is definitely part of the public debate, is whether it should be forced or not.
Let me see one thing quick, and then I'm gonna go to Mr. Shaw. I do believe in SB 421, it does have language in there that could possibly say that a public emergency would happen that would give them authorization. So I think that there is some force that's involved in SB 421, although not overt.
Right.
I mean, it's actually giving them the option if they deem it a communicable disease.
But what's it take for them to deem it an emergency?
Precisely. Mr.
Yeah.
Shaw, he's first.
The reaction to this would be so bad, like I almost want it to pass, just so people like trust the government even less. Like, you know, we create libertarians by letting them realize how messed up this is. But obviously, the right thing to do is, you know, support the parents and their choices.
Mr. Quintero.
Yeah, AB 262, there's a portion that says the bill would authorize the local health officer to issue orders to other government entities within the local health officer's jurisdiction to take any action the local health officer deems necessary to control the spread of communicable diseases.
So it's up to one person's discretion.
Somebody gets that, any action.
And that's what I was saying,
That's right.
and that's in both, and you're right, it's 262 and 421 that both,
Yeah.
421 creates an agency that deals with it, but yes, you're right, it's
The
262
Children's
has
Bureau or something.
something
Yeah,
like that,
that's
yes.
very
Yeah.
authoritarian KBOs.
Yeah, it reminds me of,
Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Doctor.
Do we have a resolution written that we can vote on today?
We do not, there was no resolution issued to anybody. I'm bringing this to this committee if they would like to make a resolution regarding this, but I didn't feel that
I would like to make a resolution, but I don't feel like we have time in this committee to write a resolution that's really intelligent.
And that's why I put it on the agenda as just a discussion on this
Yeah.
matter. I think it would be appropriate, given a bit more time and energy, to draft such a resolution that could be then voted on by email ballot. I don't think we need to take an action today. I just wanted to bring it to the attention of this committee that this is what these officers want.
Right.
And I don't feel as chair, without having any precedent on it, that I could have done this unilaterally, so that's why I brought it, Mr. Doctor.
I'd like to move that to give you the authority as chair to take a position on this to send to the various government agencies or bodies that are looking at these bills.
What's your motion?
Could you say that all over again?
Well, I know what you said, and I
To
know
give
what it
the
means.
authority to the chair to write a response, right? To take the position.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I know what you mean. Does there happen to be a second on that?
I second, because you're the representative, and I think you can do a good job, and I'd like to have discussion on it too.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Olson and seconded by Mr. Ham to, move that it's up to the chair's discretion and authority to issue a statement regarding this matter. Is there discussion?
I think we could, take a position on, even if we take any position at all, only one position could be opposed on the grounds that we don't need a new agency to have authority to take any action. That's powerful language.
Mr. Shaw?
I would say, with no disrespect to you, because I think what you said is pretty much how I feel as well, that we probably should delegate this to the newly seated committee who handles our marketing, and let them decide how we our communications team. And I don't have strong feelings on this if you disagree. It's totally cool. It's just my personal feeling.
Is that a motion? Or
Just a
yours?
suggestion.
Okay. I'm gonna put myself into the queue here on that suggestion. I think that the marketing and communications team is primarily to market and communicate what our party's positions are, and I don't believe we have a clear position on this yet.
Point of information, do they handle our press releases?
Yes.
They seem like the right people for this.
Yeah, they would be the ones that do that. So once a decision is made how to do this, one of the avenues for getting the information out would be to disseminate it through them to do press releases.
Right.
Okay.
But it could still be a statement from the chair.
That don't bother me then, yeah, if that's efficient.
I'm gonna move to amend the motion. I would like to amend the motion to state that the executive committee will, let me see how much there is.
Madam Chair, would you like to just submit your statement to us and we just approve it through email ballot?
That's where I'm going with it. I would like to amend this to say that the chair will address this and then submit it to the executive committee for either approval, amendment, or rejection.
I second.
Cool.
And I didn't pass my gavel, but, you know.
Who was the second?
The second Wendy, Ms. Hewitt. Okay, so now we are only in discussion on the amendment to the motion. Any discussion on the amendment?
When are these bills being taken up by the various committees?
They've been going through the procedure for several months now. It is getting close. It would need to be something done fairly quickly. Any further discussion on the amendment only? Hearing none, we're gonna go to a vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the amendment is now the main motion. Is there any additional discussion on the main motion, which is the motion as amended? Hearing none, we're going to go to a vote. All those in favor of the main motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yes!
His phone opposes.
Great timing.
Sorry, that's right.
That was almost as good as the down. Okay, passed by voice count. Okay, so I will work on drafting that very quickly. I will tell you that if anybody has ideas, and this is just, I'm throwing this out there, of ways to address it that could help me formalize my Mr. Ferrero.
I suggest you reach out to the people who brought forward the request to probably have some good ideas.
Exactly.
And look at the 2015 resolution, because
Absolutely.
It was well worded.
So, that being said, I'm gonna just finish that with, anybody else, I'm going to reach out to those people, I'm going to look at that. But as I stated earlier in the meeting, I'm in the process of planning my father's funeral right this second, so my time is somewhat limited. So, any help I can get getting this done quickly to help me do this, to get it done, would be greatly appreciated, as opposed to just waiting for me to write something. Because that may not happen until after the 28th, which is the funeral. So, well, then help me write this. Okay. All right. And by the way, I was vaccinated for measles, and I found out that my vaccination is null and void now.
Oh, you're one of the people they're telling you to have it done again?
Yeah, because I was in that time
Right, I
block
read
where.
a story about that.
Yeah,
Start the
so-
window of the years you were born.
I did have a child who had a adverse reaction to the vaccination.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, so anybody that has any strong opinions on this one way or the other, please reach out to me offline for this so that we can get this done, because I think it does need to be done quickly, but we've now moved that this is the way that we're gonna do it. So that takes us to the end of that, which brings us, luckily, we just are now getting here because he's now here now, Mr. Supervisor. It's the LNC report.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Woo! That
Okay,
going
just-
in?
Huh?
You guys stand
Yeah,
over
you-
there.
Yes,
Oh.
you sent it in. Do you want a copy of it?
Well, I didn't write down my paper copy.
You're in camera.
Oh,
My
I've got
napkin.
it.
You know, I was gonna say, you need a napkin?
There we go. No, oh gosh, look at that. Gun.
I
You
reformatted
don't
it.
have to read it.
Yeah, that's my writing.
Oh, I didn't change
Yeah, I didn't
anything
write it
except for
this
the
time.
format.
God, you really let me down. It took me 5
Busy.
hours. This took me longer than filming the response to the State of the Union. Anyway.
Nothing
So,
to
are there any questions? Have y'all read it?
No.
No, go ahead.
You see why I don't do them normally, because nobody's gonna read them anyway. Okay, well, I'll go over the highlights. You guys really need to get, ready for the 2020, May 21st and 25th, National Convention in Texas, in Austin. It will be in a JW Marriott, like we're in right now, but it's like only 3 or 4 years old. It's the coolest hotel in downtown Austin. Austin can be almost as much fun as New Orleans. You have like 6th Street or whatever, where there's all kinds of honky tonk, cool stuff. Yeah, no, it's a fun place. Plus, as it turns out, I have 3 of our top 5 Libertarian donors live in the Austin area. So can
they
you
will
say
be there.
kiss up? No, just okay, and then this gentleman and I will be going to there to check it out, as we do with the LNC, on July 27th and 28th. We are going to, the next meeting will be our LNC budget meeting, and we're going to Miami, Florida. Now that caused a little bit of a ruckus, because I believe it was Nick made the decision. Yeah, but there, he sent it out, and it was kind of, but I've never been to Miami, so that'll be a great chance to see maybe a future convention site too. Because we are the principal. And then,
We're the party that has all our conventions in the
Yeah, why
Southeast.
aren't they having any?
I know, well, we're gonna work on it, getting them out here on the West Coast. Last meeting was in Alexandria, Virginia on March 9th and 10th. We basically, that was a pretty smooth meeting. I mean, we're getting along now, something's wrong with it. On May 4th, the National Party had a river cruise. I believe a lot of you were here, with Chris Roofer on his boat, and it had a pretty good turn. Was there 30 people there on the boat? And it was very similar to the same thing we did a month or so before that up in Salt Lake City with Patrick Burns. So I guess our next one will have to be with Steve Forbes, because that's 2 of the 3 that were at the Students for Liberty big convention back in Washington D.C. on a panel. Okay, and then how many here knew Russ Benedict, who was our executive director for years for the National Party? He finally said, hey, I've done my time here. He resigned. Lauren Dougherty, who was in charge of our fundraising and such, she stepped in as the interim director, did a phenomenal job for about 3-4 months. I mean, took us from really a big fiscal hole and brought us up to being even again. And we had, gosh, there were like 30 qualified candidates that applied for executive director. And she was in the top 3. She did not get chosen. Actually, Daniel Fishman, who I think a lot of you know too, is our now executive director. And he's, in fact, I had lunch with him last time I was back in DC for the March Joint Power Authority. I got a few hours before I had to fly out, so I had a real good time sitting down with Daniel, and he's hitting the ground running. He's doing real well. Our 2020 theme contest in March that was put out by Daniel Hayes raised $24,000. And Tans Fall, it sounds, Tans Fall, it still sounds like a city in South Africa to me. It sounds boring. But there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And it beat out the other one that sounded like something you take when you have a headache, and Capistan.
That's very special.
And thanks, and that was totally thanks to Daniel Hayes. And as of today, I think there's about 32 states, I might be off a couple, have ballot access, and it's going to be really working toward 2020. We're going to have to really work hard. Some of these states are pushing back. Texas legislature just voted down a horrible law was going to double from 5% to 10% that we needed to get of signatures to get on the ballot. And you know what the really terrible part of this was that the gentleman that made that introduced that law was a Republican that was supposedly a liberty-leaning Republican who Yao had actively helped get elected. So we're gonna have to let them know that, you know, guys, come on, we're all on the same page here. Let's work together. Let's don't try to play tribes. The announced presidential candidates right now are Adam Kokesh, Arvin Vohra, Ben Leder, Kim Ruff, Vermin Supreme, Dan Berman, KBO, and many more. No candidates. No, I stuck KBO.
That was an April Fool's joke.
No, that's okay. And that's my report. Do you have any questions of any substance? Because that didn't have a lot of substance.
How come they have,
What? What?
How come they have so many meetings back east? That's ridiculous. Alexandria, and you're going to Texas.
Yeah,
and then you're
tired
going
of
Well, we were in Phoenix.
Yes.
We were in Phoenix recently, in Denver.
Yeah,
That's considered the West. But we were
They
in
should have
Phoenix.
some out here.
Yeah.
One of the candidates you mentioned, Ben Leder, he previously made an accusation that the LNC was insolvent and was spending more than it was taking in, and I know nothing of the issue, but you seem to suggest that an issue's been solved. Is everything alright?
Actually, that's right. And everything, it wasn't insolvent, but we were running. And we actually made light of the fact that we're so fiscally conservative, it doesn't look good that if we can't keep our own house in order, how are we gonna do it when we get elected? So yeah, that and most of that goes to Lauren Dougherty. A lot of hard work there. So.
Also the Joe Bishop Benjamin.
And then okay, so some extra credit goes to Richard Longstreth and Joe Bishop Henchman, who we've had 2 meetings in Alexandria because we're saving money. You know, we can do it right there, and it's real cheap and everything, and we don't have to fly staff anywhere. But that first one that we had in Alexandria, that's where they stayed up all night. The 2 of them, and they didn't even like each other, and they worked on it, and they came back with a balance. And that's what's so hard, making cuts. I mean, we see it. We're looking at the county budget, everything else. I mean, people have a hard time saying no to all these different departments that come in. But our budget, that was like I say, a great time when I said, wow, this body is starting to act like a real body. So some good things there. Very exciting. Everybody try to start planning for Austin, because this is going to be. I mean, we've got some very colorful candidates right now. Oh, and by the way, I believe I just saw today that.
McAfee.
What's that? McAfee is also running from a boat. Yeah.
Of course.
Down by the river. No, just.
No, but he's running, but he is running on the boat.
He's running on the boat. And he's said nanny Billy Goat to the IRS because he hasn't filed a pay in 8 years. So he should be running directly with Dan Berman, who taxes our theft. So he's got some really colorful candidates. There's some others that may step up, and obviously there's a lot of people maybe hoping that somebody like the gentleman from Michigan, who's a congressman,
Justin Amash.
Yeah.
Justin Amash. He's very libertarian in a lot of things he says and stuff. So we'll see. There's been some rumors as to if Howard Schultz, decided that, hey, I want to get into this, and a lot of his ideas are very libertarian. So I mean, he would certainly be a big name. There's always a default on maybe us convincing our loved chairman, who's very good on TV and does well in debates and everything, to step down for a while and be, if we need a really serious candidate. Huh?
Although it might cause divorce.
No, I think they're behind him very well. So we'll see. But those are the coming up. And if you know anybody that really, and getting name is so. Remember, the thing with Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, as many flaws as both of them actually had too, they brought a certain swag that, hey, we've been governors, and that add a little bit. But it's where do we want to go as a party? Do we want to be just still that party of principle and be so pure? Or do we want to say, hey, look, if these ideas, they apply to most of the people in the United States, and give us a chance to come on over and do that. It's a tightrope to walk, because flippers, a lot of them do it for opportunity. We want people that have our beliefs in smaller government and more personal responsibility and stuff. But if it's going to be exciting between now and 6 months. There's going to be some big names coming in. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's my report. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's gonna bring us to the next agenda item, which is the candidate. He's proud of himself, it wasn't on an napkin. That brings us to the candidate support committee report. I did submit this somewhat in advance. It wasn't in advance as my very own motion for the operating procedures manual says, which is a week ahead of time. And believe me, Gail Lightfoot has given me a rash of stuff.
You responded well.
Anyways, so here's my report. I submitted in advance. The beginning is just what it always is. It's a very short report. I talked about our goals. And the Candidate Support Committee has been working on realistic goals to help promote both the candidates and the Libertarian Party itself. We have been working on developing strategies to reach out to members and donors to become monthly donors. This will ensure consistent revenue stream. We have also been working on plan and execute fundraising events, which included dinners and online campaigns. Just an overview of what we've done in the last year is the banquet at the convention this year raised over $8,000 for the Candidate Support Committee, bringing the current balance in our account to $18,231, which sounds like a low number, but it's way higher than it's been, and we've actually spent money, so we're going good. We now are getting $273 per month in recurring donations, which brings that total up to $3,276 annually. This is something that Mr. Ferreira, who's very involved in this committee, has been working actively on, is getting people to donate monthly. Even if you only donate $5 a month, and I know many people at this table already do, but anybody else, if you don't already, anything that you can donate monthly, this gives us a constant revenue stream that we can count on. And we need that, especially going into 2020. We're gonna have a lot of really exciting candidates. We've got, we've gotten some bigger donations. I think that we're going to be going to donors for other bigger donations, but just getting the money from these $5, $10, $25 a month donations, that keeps us sustainable. That keeps money coming in on a regular basis, so we have an idea of how we can budget that money going out, so. And, thank you, Tim, because that was really, he's been pushing that, and, he's helped us raise a lot of money. I mean, he's done a really good job, so, thank you. I also wanted to mention Jay Bieber. He's running in Los Angeles for city council, and he's on the ballot for June 4th. He was able to raise over $20,000, which meant that he was able to get matching funds from the city of Los Angeles of 6 times that amount.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got $120,000 from the city to his $20,000 that he raised.
Wow.
Which now gives him a campaign budget of over $140,000. So, he's also gotten endorsements from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, the John and Ken Show on KFI, which is a big southern radio station, both of which had endorsed Supervisor Hewitt. And on this one, Tim Ferrer and Angela McCardle have really taken the lead on helping Jay with this campaign. They're organizing volunteers, they're helping him raise money, they're helping him door knock. If anybody can help, please contact them for more information to get involved in this campaign. Of course,
When is the election, in June?
it's June 4th, so it's like real close. He has a very good chance. I mean, he's got name recognition. It's a nonpartisan race, and he is running nonpartisan. But he's done a lot of work with like the red light cameras and things like that, which is how he got John McKen's endorsement. He's been in the public eye for a lot of the things he's doing, so it's pretty exciting. So wanted to talk about that. And we've had only 2 meetings since the convention, April 15th and May 6th. As I mentioned in my chair's report, Ted Brown, he resigned the day of our last candidate support committee meeting. He resigned right before it, so I've added Emily Hinkle as a voting member. Our next meeting is on May 20th, and that is my report. Are there any questions? Mr. Ferrer.
Would anyone mind if I talked about Jay Bieber's campaign for another about 90 seconds? Is that okay?
I have, any objection to that? Hearing none?
So, he's running for city council in Los Angeles, and that is a council of 15 people. And right now, 14 of them are Democrats. And this one position that's open was the lone standing Republican. He resigned in order to pursue a career somewhere else. And it does not look like a non-Democrat is in the lead right now. There are 2 Democrats who are in the lead of the polls. I just think whether you agree or disagree with the Democratic force in Los Angeles, I don't think that you should have a committee made up of all like-minded individuals. It turns up into an echo chamber. And so if you have any friends, relatives, business owners, anyone that you know in Los Angeles who will listen to you rant at them for a few minutes, let them know that that's one of the main points that we're trying to push out there, is that we're trying to stop this echo chamber from forming. And if we put a libertarian into that position, that is someone who the Democrats can still work with. If you put a Republican there, they can't work with them. They're toxic. They're not allowed to work with that individual kind of thing. Put a libertarian there that can still work with them. So that's the message we're trying to get out there. It's one of the key points of the campaign.
And Mr. Ferrer, this is a specific district in Los Angeles, correct?
It is District 12, which is the North San Fernando Valley.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, so anybody, if you know people specifically in that area, it's a special election, so my guess is that voter turnout will be very low.
There is only 2 things on the ballot. There is this city council race, which there's 15 people running for the one spot of the 15, so there's 2 15s involved, but anyway. And then there is a Measure EE, which is a new parcel tax, which is going to give the city billions of dollars over the years kind of thing, because they're taxing the heck out of all the parcels.
And it's a horrible proposition.
Yeah,
Does he have door knockers? I mean, that makes a huge difference.
He has volunteer door knockers. He does not have paid door knockers.
Is there any possibility of getting him paid door knockers?
If you guys have the money, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know what he had left out of his $140,000.
So yeah, basically, from my understanding, Tim, if we could somehow raise an extra $5,000, which would be matched, the campaign manager of that campaign would be willing to fund more door knockers, correct?
That is correct. If we get $5,000 of money from citizens, residents of Los Angeles City,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be in his district, but as long as they're residents of Los Angeles City. And the key way to figure that out, because most people don't even know if they're resident of Los Angeles City, because they put something else on their actual address line. If you pay LDWP for your power or water, most likely you're a resident of Los Angeles City. Okay. If we collect $5,000 from them, the city will then match that with another $30,000. That would be $35,000, and that would allow us to get door knockers. But we are up against. It takes at least a week for us to fly them out here and stuff. So I mean, it's real close to whether or not that's even going to be effective.
So
right now, just coming out and volunteering is probably a better choice.
best way, understood.
All right, is there any other questions on the candidate support committee report? Okay, hearing none, that's gonna take us to the next agenda item, which is the volunteer coordination.
What is the historical
Oh, it's the,
affiliate?
no, I'm sorry, did I put that before? I meant to put it after. We can change it to put it after. I had it after. Volunteer
Historical
first.
preservation?
Yeah, so
One
the,
you sent to me this morning.
yeah, so it's volunteers and historical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what I had asked you guys to note was that it was going directly after volunteer. You may have put it before by mistake. So it's volunteer coordinator.
All put it before or after, that's it.
Okay, so, this is your volunteer committee report. I'm not gonna go over all the stuff in the beginning, it's kind of blah. But just to give you an idea, the sources for our volunteer committee inquiries and responses were volunteers@lp.org, inquiries@lp.org, inquiries@ca.lp.org, volunteers@ca.lp.org, and the SurveyMonkey survey that we got data from. The big news is composition of the committee's changed during this reporting period since member KBO submitted his resignation from the committee effective the 7th of April 2019 in anticipation of new duties as vice chair, and new members Jillian Olson and Kevin Moore have come on board. Responses to the SurveyMonkey inquiry source that was created during the previous reporting period were not included in the previous report and therefore are included in this report. And as you can see from their charts at the end of the report, if you saw it, during this reporting period, the committee has not only met but exceeded its goal of responding to all inquiries within 7 days or less when factoring out the SurveyMonkey data that was not delivered to the committee until well after 7 days of election, as the maximum lag time during the period for all but one response, 10 days, was 4 days or less, and 98% of the goal of 7 days or less. Unfortunately, the rate of responses within 1 day or less has fallen from 92% during the previous reporting period to just 37% during the current reporting period when factoring out the SurveyMonkey data. The mean lag time was 1.19 days. Let's see. There have been no meetings of the volunteer committee since the last volunteer committee report to the executive committee written on 26 January 2019. But we've been busy processing inquiries as usual. We created a volunteer application that has been posted to the website. It's been used in this committee meeting here when considering people for election to various committees. The intent was to provide an opportunity for more LPC members to get involved and to spread the workload, especially for committees, beyond the members of the executive committee in order to make task completion more likely. So for this reporting period, we had a total of 91 contacts, 8 of them from inquiries@lp.org, 11 from volunteers@lp.org, 17 from inquiries at ca.lp.org, 17 from volunteers@ca.lp.org, and 39 from the SurveyMonkey survey. And those inquiries were responded to by the committee members. Devin Harris gets the first prize for this reporting period with 47 responses. Wendy Hewitt dropped down to number 2 after an amazing job last reporting period to only 27. And I got 13 in, and new members Jillian Olson and Kevin Moore have not responded to any inquiries, but that probably is due to the fact that we haven't had a meeting since they joined up, and they probably have lots of questions on how to go about doing this. So we're going to work on getting a meeting going. Inquiries by county, Alameda had 1, Contra Costa had 5, El Dorado had 1, Humboldt had 1, Kern had 5, Los Angeles had 23, Marin had 1, Orange had 8, Placer had 1, Riverside had 5, Sacramento had 4, San Bernardino had 3, San Diego had 7, San Joaquin had 2, San Luis Obispo had 1, San Mateo 4, Santa Clara 7, Santa Cruz 2, Shasta 1, Sonoma 5, Stanislaus 1, Tulare 1, and 1 inquiry from an unaffiliated person. And that's about it. Any questions?
Okay, seeing none, that'll bring us to the next agenda item, which is the Historical Preservation Committee. And the chair of that committee is Joe Dean. Currently on the committee, in addition to him, are Bill Haidu, Gail Lightfoot, and John Foster. There is one opening on this committee, and I'm looking to fill that. I haven't seen any applications for people that want to be on that. If you or anyone you know would be interested in being involved in this, it's a very important committee because it's how we're gonna start actually keeping our institutional memory, which we haven't had for a long time. We reinvent the wheel every time new executive committees get seated, and if we didn't have people like, Jeff Hewitt and Boomer Shannon to keep us in check, we're all like brand new, we wouldn't remember anything, right? So, just saying. So I will just briefly, I sent this out, it came out kind of, he didn't send this as early as he should, so.
Historical preservation? You can continue on, you don't have to listen.
I know, but they're distracting.
Sorry. Pardon me, madam, I'll go ahead, yeah. That's cool. Historical preservation.
Okay, let me read his report and then you and I will talk because I appointed that. So if you're interested in that, that's excellent. Okay, so this is Joe saying that we held 2 meetings since our last report on 23 February and 23 March. We continue to do most of our work by email and via Lpedia, which is where they put most of the stuff up. Progress on projects, our plan of work and the status of various projects is documented on our Lpedia page and I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but basically it's the lpedia.org, and then you can look for Libertarian Party of California. Committee, since our last report, we have made significant progress in scanning and uploading issues of past state newsletters. There is a chart on our page showing details of this. The biggest obstacles to completing this project are 1, locating a complete set of the earliest newsletters, which is CA Liber, and 2, scan, I'm sorry?
Caliber.
Well, the way he wrote it is weird.
Caliber.
Okay, it's Caliber. And scanning, and 2, scanning the issues of newsletters which were published in tabloid format from which we only have a hard copy. Tabloid format newsletters are more difficult to scan, both because of the size of the pages and the type of the paper. We would be happy to hear from anybody who might be able to help us with either of these things. We assembled a display for the state convention which both highlighted what we are trying to do and provided many samples of historical items for attendees to see. This included a display board with lists of conventions, state chairs, candidates for governor and U.S. Senate, graphs of registered libertarians and central committee members, members, a list of past state newsletters along with how many issues are online so far, and the first two years article from 1974. Also on the table were a notebook containing outreach materials, some historical buttons and bumper stickers, and extra copies of Libertarian Alternative. The backdrop consisted of 2 LPC banners used at past events. Also posted on the wall was an outreach poster produced by the LPSF. In preparation for that display, we were able to create an essentially complete graph of Libertarian voter registration from the time of the original registration drive to present, the record of dues-paying state membership, central committee members, and/or all donors. However, this is very spotty for significant periods. Although we did produce a display and graph of what we had, I don't expect we will be able to make much more progress on this until we have had a chance to process detailed minutes and officer committee reports from these periods. We have had considerable discussion but not made as much progress as I hoped on identifying people who can help us with gathering and organizing material relating to local groups. We are looking for both people who would like to be willing to volunteer to work on this for their own county, region, and people who may have material that would be useful and that they would be willing to share with us even if they don't want to spend time working on it. There's a chart on our page showing who we have identified so far, but it's still pretty sparse. That is his report. I don't know that I could really field any questions on that other than that, so if there's, I think that we're done with that. And Mr. Shaw, I will be adding you to that committee. Congratulations. Joe will be happy. Okay, so that then brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the 2018 convention. Now, I know that that sounds kind of not timely, but I realized that I had never actually submitted a report to be put in our actual records for that convention. So, I've been working on that report, and I will say it's not completely completed, and it will be, and I will send it out, and it will be made a part of the minutes. But I did just want to go over a few key points about it, which is going to be all in this really pretty, I can show you on my computer what it looks like. It's really pretty.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
should we just table it all together?
No, because I'm going to give this information. We don't need to table it because I don't want to wait until the next meeting. I just want to get it done. So I did this really pretty report. See how pretty that is? So
Beautiful.
in 2017, we had 142 people total, or I'm sorry, in 2018 we had 171 people total at the convention with 135 delegates registered with 113 maximum delegates on the floor. The net income was $30,660 and the net profit after expenses was $4,072. I have spreadsheets for all of that. But essentially we spent, the biggest part of what we spent was on the hotel, of course. And all of this will be broken down in the final report, but I just wanted to just let everybody know that this is going to be sent out via email. And I just wanted to give one other little historical thing that I put together just because I thought it was kind of cool because it's the only 4 conventions that I have actual numbers for. In 2016, we had 127 total people registered with a maximum of 64 delegates on the floor, and that's for the minutes. I don't know how many total registered delegates there were because there are no records. The gross income of that convention was $18,200, and the net loss after expenses was $3,200. And that was a presidential year, so not great. 2017, we had 142 people total, with 93 total delegates registered and 81 maximum delegates on the floor. The net income was $18,340, and they had a net loss after expenses of $4,290. Part of that loss was because of they had to pay for 15 rooms. 2018, we had 171 people, 135 delegates registered with 113 maximum delegates on the floor. The net income was $33,862, and we had a net profit of $4,072. And 2019 convention, we had 231 people that registered. I think that's right. I'll have to look at my next numbers. We had 167 delegates total that registered before the fact, and we had 134 delegates on the floor with a net income of $40,800 and a net profit of over $6,000. So we are growing year after year in the last 4 years, and I think going into 2020 we're gonna really go high. So this report will be sent out in its entirety. I've given the oral report now, so it will be a part of this meeting's minutes, because that will be the written report. Are there any questions on the 2018 convention? Okay, so that brings us to the 2019 convention. I put this on the agenda not because, and you'll notice it does not say it's the committee report, because the committee report is still a work in progress. Because these convention reports are really effing time consuming. So I'm just saying. But what I did want to, and I will put this in the records of our meeting, I wanted to just give a recap of the profit and loss on these. So as I said, we had, we had 167 delegates pre-register. We had 152 delegates actually sign in at the convention with 136 on the floor, which is huge. I've given a breakdown of what we made, and this is just simply profit on the convention packages itself, including t-shirts, but it also takes into account that we paid for the t-shirts. So this is profit, not any of the donations or anything. Profit on the convention itself was $6,196.50, which is pretty good. We did really well. We sold a lot of packages. It was a really great convention. And so I will put these two as part of incorporated on the minutes, but it gives basically the income and expense and also the actual hotel charges. And then in addition to that, I just wanted to tell you what we took in at the door. So we took in $2,035 at the door for actual convention related things, which are already incorporated in that other thing. We raised $8,031 for the CSC at the banquet. We got $3,600 pre-registered for 2020, and then we got, as I said, we got those lifetime memberships. So all told, that was another, well, $19,166 plus the $8,000 for the lifetime memberships. So we did really well. We brought in a lot of money. So, is there any questions on what I reported, which is not the committee report, on the 2019 convention? Once again, I want to thank the convention committee that did an awesome job. Okay, so that brings us to the next thing, which I actually, for some strange reason, thought that Mark Hinkle was coming to this meeting. I don't know where I got that idea, but I did, and he's not. So I put the California State Fair on the agenda. So the only thing I'll report on that is we have paid the money for the state fair. We've got the booth. We've got a indoor booth that's air conditioned. So apparently that's really great for Sacramento in July.
We've just made a deposit so far.
Okay, well, I just gave you what we got in the mail, so I don't know. We may need to owe them money.
We still do this.
Okay, so we're gonna pay. Yes, Ms. Hughes.
Do we have any actual numbers on how many people we get touched with, or that have signed up at this state fair,
Or where the money went last time?
I can tell you that one of the things that no, we don't.
No,
And
so
it's more of an
we're
outreach.
still missing a bunch of money and still funding the project?
It's mainly an outreach. We're not missing money. We pay for booth. We
No,
don't.
the year before, there was money missing out of the kitty, the entire kitty
Well,
disappeared.
2 years before, that was 2016.
Any of that money been recouped?
I don't know where that money went, and I wasn't even involved in the party then, I just know it happened.
We're still funding this project.
So.
Do we have any numbers on outreach? How many people, anything like that?
We don't, but we as a committee, or we as last year's committee, voted to approve this, to pay for it. It's primarily an outreach. We don't anticipate getting a rate of return in terms of money from it. What we are trying to get is outreach to people that go to the event. It could be a very good outreach opportunity. I think though we have to run this a bit more, and like I said in my chair report, I wanna run this in a far more organized fashion, which is why I'm putting together this committee, and they are gonna have to report on it. And it's not just gonna be that we give a blank check to one particular person who's running it. It's gonna be a committee. I will tell you that I talked to one of our donors at a recent event who's very excited that we're involved. So that's something as well in this year.
I would like to say before we approve it next year, I'd like to see some substantial numbers on it.
I think that's fair. I mean, you can make a motion and such now, or you can wait until we do it next year, but it's up to you.
Well, you might wanna tell the people this year to collect those numbers so that you.
That's gonna be part of this committee, and that's gonna be part of this committee's task, which is why I'm putting together an ad hoc committee. And I don't know if you noticed, but on that committee I have a couple people that I think are gonna be very good at keeping those numbers organized, more so than others. I think that Emily Tilford is a really good person to keep track of numbers, so, Mr. Shannon.
Are we paying for anything beyond the booth?
We are not, are we? What did we approve?
It's just the booth, and
Well-
the booth includes some parking fees.
Yeah, so we're paying for the booth and we're paying for some parking fees for volunteers, Mr. Shannon.
So are there any other counties, the state is subsidizing to do activism?
No, there's not.
Okay.
However, by the way, I didn't vote for this, just FYI.
We did think about doing the Indio Date Festival at one point, and they get a lot of people out there, but then, you know, we haven't really had any numbers on the state fair on what, I mean, people don't go to the fair to go talk to political tables,
yeah.
really, so.
And I will say that the reason, my understanding of the reason why the party has in the past funded the state fair was because it is a state fair as opposed to a county fair, even though it's in the county of, yeah, it's in a county, but it's considered the state fair. 1 second, then you. And the other thing that I do know is the 2016, and I only know this because I just went 12 minutes to figure this out. The 2016 convention banquet, actually it was the funds raised at that banquet that paid for the state fair that year. Indeed, money did get disappeared, but then we didn't do it at all in 2017. We did do it in 2018. We're doing it again in 2019. So we'll see, but I think that we should look at it very carefully in the future, Mr. Quigley.
So this booth that's at the state fair, is it being hosted and represented as the Libertarian Party of Sacramento, or is it the State Party of California?
Libertarian Party of California.
So it's a state party event
State party
or function, or
at
whatever
the
you wanna
state
call
fair.
it.
Correct. First, Dr. Olson, then Mr. Hammond.
So I just wanted to say, I understand the apprehension at funding the state fair project, especially since we haven't gotten numbers. But I just want to say that the reason that I got involved in this party is because I came upon a Libertarian Party booth at the Utah State Fair. If I hadn't run into that booth, I may not be sitting here today. So.
It is an outreach opportunity, Mr. Hammond.
Where does this money come from in the budget? Is there was it like a marketing budget, or how?
No, it's specifically in the budget for the state fair.
Okay.
And it was approved by the ExCom. So it was, as a matter of fact, at our meeting in December where it was approved in the budget, it was the committee that then increased that budget based upon a motion made by Mark Kimball. But it is all a budgeted item. Mr. Hack.
I suppose if you wanted to get some kind of a metric, they could do something to keep track of roughly how many flyers they hand out. Because, I know from participating in the wine and art festivals at Santa Clara County, we pass out a lot of stuff. A lot of times we don't pass out anything, but people come in and talk to us. But there's no count actually going on of how many people we actually talk to. So if they can keep track of something like that, it's like, give you some metric in terms of context.
Can I make a motion that they keep in check or a running count of how many people they talk to, or?
Yeah, possibly sign-up sheets or something. Maybe there's like do we have sheets like that at the booth that?
Everybody doesn't fill out sign-up sheets, but
Right.
a very small percentage do, but you can almost kind of take a rough guesstimate.
If they'll
When you
accept
look-
what you're trying to handle.
If you accept,
Okay.
if they accept the flyer, what percentage do and what?
One
Right.
second. So I believe that, did you make that motion?
I mean, can I make a motion?
Well, you
like that?
can make any motion you want.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that they keep track of, how many flyers they hand out. How's that? I mean, that's kind of a,
Specify who they is, but otherwise.
The volunteers at the booth.
at the booth or the state.
Sign-ups. These guys disappeared an entire kitty of money for the total of thousands of dollars. I have no doubt that it could possibly disappear a bunch of flyers as well. I wanna see the
I
context.
was gonna say flyers can vary, as a matter of fact,
Well,
I have
that's
a
why I thought, well,
I mean, I
that
have a
sounds
personal
kinda-
story of that I'll share really quickly. My friend had a business and he was trying to get his son to do some work, a friend of his had the flyers that you put on car windshields, and his son got paid $500 to do 500 of these windshield flyers, and he went out to the trash can and found all 500 in the trash after his son had gotten money. flyers,
Then I withdraw that.
I'm just saying,
Maybe we could ask them if they want to register to receive more information.
it wasn't seconded.
I heard Mr. Ham seconded.
You already
There was a
said,
bunch of seconds.
I say.
Yeah, I withdraw that.
We second.
you can't,
I can?
you
Now
can't.
belongs
Just
to the
vote
body.
it down, just vote it down.
It belongs to the body, so therefore, before I recognize you, let me just dispose of this. There's a motion on the floor, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion itself? If not, we will go to an immediate vote. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
The motion fails. Mr. Governor, does anybody have any problems with, hearing
No.
Mr. Governor?
Sign-ups is an excellent idea, because there you can actually tell whether or not they ever respond.
Those are the people that actually wanna be contacted.
Yeah, and then you can tell whether or
They're gonna
not it's a
actually
dead,
give you their info.
whether it's a dead email address or what. The other thing would be voter registrations.
And I was
you-
gonna say that.
That's what I was gonna say.
And that would be the most constructive, would be voter because you can track that, by looking, at the, county, registrar and look at who registered right when, how many weeks after that fair. So you'll eventually, although it might take, as long as it takes the county, or you can just record each registration as you take it.
Is that an effort we make there, is to have registration slips and to register people there on the spot?
The Democrats and Republicans do this,
No,
always
they
have a,
do.
voter registration.
Well, you
They
have
a
to
lot of
go
times
through
they
the
don't.
county and get permission to get the slips and have them so many
No.
days and turn them back. You
You
do in
and-
Stanislaus.
You do in most.
I just ran for state assembly
You
in
do in
Stanislaus,
Los
you gotta
Angeles
get
as well.
permission to get them, tell them what they're for, you give them so many days, and you have to bring back the ones you don't use.
You do in Los Angeles as well.
Yeah.
Real
Pick
quick,
'em
so-
up.
It ain't that simple.
They're not violated,
Still give you the case and those recorder the pictures to hold.
Right.
Did you guys report it out?
Oh, I was just gonna make a motion that.
Oh, really?
that
They did with
the,
that salt stuff, they told me.
California State Fair Committee, that we require them to report back on any signups and any voter registration that is conducted at the state fair.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded
Or central committee.
that the state fair
Registration.
committee report back to the executive committee any
Signups.
Signups.
Or voter
or voter
registration,
registration.
or,
That can-
or party memberships that they get at the state fair,
Signups for
information.
info or
Voter registrations.
memberships.
Sure, but Tim, you did put the volume back up on the thingy, right? I just remembered, sorry. Okay, so
I
it's
remember
been,
earlier.
it's been moved and seconded,
Did we get a second?
Yeah,
I
Wendy
did.
seconded.
Okay.
And now it goes to discussion, Mr. Shannon.
And maybe instead of signups, we can call it contacts, just so we get in a contact list.
Mhm.
Signups imply, making the sale, right?
Right,
And
like
I think
you're
we
automatically
should-
joining or
Yeah,
something.
we should just take the baseline number of contacts.
I
and
think
get-
that's what I said, as I remember.
I was gonna say that
I think
I'm
said
pretty sure that's what he
contacts.
said.
I think that was the word I used.
Contacts it is.
Yeah, it was. Mr. Quintero.
Who's on this committee?
I am looking for, it's going to be an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
So far I have 3 members, I'm looking for 2 more. These would be members in the, most logically, they would be members in northern, somewhere in the Sacramento area, or at least close enough, because part of it is going to be volunteering and taking shifts at the fair. So right now, the 3 members of this committee are Mark Hinkle, who is the chair of the committee. I have appointed him chair, Emily Tilford, and Barbara Engelhardt.
How
And we have
many
2
do
more
we need?
seats. It's a committee of 5.
I'll nominate myself,
Okay? You don't need to nominate me.
or whatever it takes, I'll volunteer.
Okay,
I'd just like to recommend that we need a marketing person on that committee. Someone who's good at marketing and or social media, because I did volunteer, I was there. And we had a truly cheesy button maker. We're making buttons out of crappy paper, they were really bad. And we handed out the smallest political quiz,
Right.
but, okay, whatever. But I don't remember, voter
really, cause I was told that there was a voter registration?
I don't recall. If there was some, they maybe piled in some stack of paper that we had laying around. It was really disorganized and sloppy. And
I'll also tell you that I was told that the button making machine was super popular.
really,
Yeah.
You're also told it was a good investment.
yeah. Well, I was there, and not so much.
Okay, good.
So,
good,
yeah,
good,
but it
good
was
to
just
know.
really boring. It's as if somebody posted up a tent on the 1970s and tried to do old 1970s style.
Just
It
out
was
of,
super boring.
out of curiosity, at least with the smallest political quizzes, was somebody actually grading them and putting them on the board?
Yes.
Okay, well, at
They
least
were
that.
put on the board,
Okay,
yeah.
well, there's at least that. Okay, so, we didn't vote on this yet, right?
We have not.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this motion that was made and seconded? It's on the motion, this is discussion of the motion, yes? Mr. Howe?
I don't know, but from, prior experience, if you wanted to build traffic at the table, and I've actually done this, if you get a big helium tank and some balloons that say Libertarian Party, you'll be amazed at how much traffic comes to your table.
Cause the kids like those balloons.
The kids act like, you know, it's as though you were going out and grabbing a hold of the adult and bringing it over, only it's the little crumb cruncher that's bringing them in.
Then you can breathe some of the helium and go on a rant about the
Well,
government in your high-pitched
Exactly,
voice.
okay, so, but yeah.
That would be-
No, that's an excellent idea, and you should talk to the committee about that.
No, you
But back to, is there any discussion on the motion
No, I'll
itself?
take the nitrous one.
Cause we can talk about it again, we're not done with the agenda item.
What was the motion?
I'll
motion was-
take it.
Not gonna read the motion.
He's gonna read the motion?
The motion is to require the California State Fair Committee to report on the number of voter registrations, contacts, and memberships created during the state fair.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, we will go to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes by voice count. That actually brings us to the end of the 10 minutes for the state fair, unless we would like to talk any further about this. Okie dokie. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the LPC physical asset storage. So, I was asked to put this on the committee. Currently, as I stated earlier in the meeting, we have physical assets in terms of a button maker, which is apparently very, very popular. And,
At some venues, it actually is.
I'm just saying, we have that. And then we have a bunch of AV assets. And as I stated, and we got a bunch of county signs and we got a bunch of stuff. So we've got a bunch of stuff. Right now we've got 2 sets of the AV equipment because we used to have northern and southern vice chairs. Now we have 3 areas. There's no really good way to split this stuff equitably up amongst 3. However, right now, really the bulk of this is 2 places. It's in Mr. Howe's spare bedroom, and it's in, I think,
My
the
SUV.
second, his SUV. So we gotta, and there's also a bunch of crap that's at my house too.
And I still have a bunch of stuff too.
Oh, and we got a bunch of crap
We have
all over.
4 areas of storage over.
We've got things all over the place with no real place to put them, and we probably need to get them somewhere near Los Angeles area because of the fact that that is where our next convention is. Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Ferreira has a business associate who is willing to put up the physical assets in storage in the greater Los Angeles area for free.
Well, that is certainly a good bargain.
And whenever we need them somewhere in the state, we'll ship them to us wherever we're at in the state. We have to pay for the shipping, obviously, but they'll handle packaging it all up, sending it to us, getting it there, and then receiving it when it comes back.
And then, oh, okay, so we would inventory it once and then they'd be required to keep up with the inventory? Cause I don't believe it's been properly inventoried since the convention, especially since it's in a whole shitload of different places. So, And I know that Mr. Howe's been busy, so I don't think he's gotten out the spreadsheet.
We've also got the Southern California office still that exists, we can put the stuff there too, so. And that's in Monrovia, not too far away from where you'd be, the convention.
Is there anything there? No.
I don't know, I think we cleared it out for the convention, I think everything you guys asked for, emptied it. But I can't speak with any detail, I haven't been there a while.
Well, so I guess really that means we have two different places we could possibly put this. I like the idea of somebody else inventorying and shipping them for us. I like that, but I'm just saying, Mr. Doctor.
I'd like to move to accept Mr. Ferrera's associates, deal. That we,
Very generous.
yes.
With
And that we consolidate all of our assets at that location.
Mr. Shannon.
Well, we don't know what the shipping costs are going to be. Right now, if we store them at the county office, their shipping costs to the state are none, because they get moved from one place to another by volunteers.
I understand that, but I think that what he's saying, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'm not arguing one way or the other, but I believe that what he's saying is that if somebody needs this in Del Norte, he would take care of packaging it up and shipping it to Del Norte and receiving it back, whereas would your volunteers drive to Del Norte?
Well, no, but that's why we have multiple sets of gear, ideally, right, so we keep
Right,
one that's in the
but the point
locality
is
in the,
right now-
we have one that's in the locality in the north, and one that's in the locality in the
But the
south, and we
point is
decided to
right-
do one, I'm not done talking.
Okay.
You asked me a question and then you interrupted me.
I'm sorry. I'm tired.
The idea is that we have, the reason why when we originally put these things together is that we have one in the south, one in the north that's easily distributable to some extent, right, there's, hours you have to drive either way to go pick these things up, but if you get an event, you can go to the office, pick it up, take it away, right? The shipping costs for sending these things, I don't know if any of you guys are picking that stuff up, but it's heavy, and I think the shipping costs are going to be pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what they're going to be, but I'm imagining it's gonna be a couple $100 to ship these things in toto. By the time that we ship an AV equipment back and forth 3 times, we've bought new AV equipment. So I think it's just smart to use the assets that we have that don't cost us anything.
Yeah, I wanted to expound on that too, cause what's their idea of shipping it?
Yeah.
I doubt they're gonna load it up on their own truck and drive it there for us. They're gonna go through FedEx or UPS or somewhere else that, like you said, we're gonna have to pay for. So like you said, it's based on weight. I mean, it's not size, it's weight. So if this is heavy equipment, it is gonna cost a lot more.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to ship.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize, if there's no objection, Mr. Ferrer, and then it's gonna be Mr. Shaw.
There is one additional cost that wasn't brought up. Some of the stuff that we have right now is not in a shippable format, so we're gonna have to buy, some Pelican cases and things like that to ship it in. Most of it is, but the actual good equipment is, but we've got a bag full of cables that will need to be packaged up in a way that can ship.
Mr. Shaw.
And if indeed we consolidate all our equipment at Mr. Ferrer's, friends, nothing would prevent volunteers from offering to take a drive that they could and going and picking it up and taking it there. But then we would have the option of shipping provided to us.
That's true.
That was true too. Ms. Hewitt.
We don't have 2 of everything, right?
No, we do. We for the most part.
I would suggest that we keep, the south area stuff down here and have to find another place up north.
Here's our problem right now, and I'm just gonna answer that. The problem right now is we've got, as I said, a bunch of shit, lots of places. We don't have any, right now, we've got to figure out how to get all this shit together in order to figure out what we have. Then we can maybe split it up, or maybe we can at that point talk about buying a 3rd set so we have it for each area, because right now we have 2. But right now I think it has to be consolidated, just to figure out what shit we have.
Yeah.
What if
Don't buy a 3rd set of the stuff you got.
everybody
I'll help you pick out better stuff.
So-
Okay, first, this.
For the same
So
price.
first of all, I agree with what Mimi just said, and second of all, historically, the northern area has not utilized the AV assets. I don't know if the south has utilized them.
We use them a lot.
We basically use the assets for the convention. The convention is in Los Angeles, and therefore I think because those assets, all the assets have to be transported to the convention site.
Yeah.
So,
The closer you keep them, the better.
yeah.
Well, I think since our convention's gonna be down here this year, we could inventory it all this year.
He was first actually, and then.
Is there anybody in this room that would be willing to gather it all up and inventory it, or know somebody who'd be willing to do that?
AFH inventory, all this other stuff.
This other stuff. And I inventoried a bunch of stuff as
Yeah,
well.
you and I did, yeah.
Yeah, we could do this, but the first step of inventorying is getting it to someplace to inventory.
Yeah.
So I think that we're putting like the horse or the
It
cart
kind of
before our
mostly
horse
is
over here.
inventoried, really, right? I
No.
can name most
No.
of what we got off the top of my
No,
head.
I'll tell you why it's not inventory. Because we know what we had at convention, we know that got put several different places after
Okay.
convention.
Some of it may have disappeared.
We don't know what we have now, cause it's not like after convention, we went through, we inventoried everything, and
Right.
we made sure everything came back. I'm sure it did because Mr. Ferrer did a really, really good job. But in the meanwhile, he took it several different places.
Right.
Well,
As was asked of him,
all of the AV equipment is inventoried in at Steve's house, so I know where all of that stuff is.
and it
Plus-
was inventoried.
Plus, we have an additional TV, we actually have more than what we had.
Right, so somebody gave us a TV.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we're getting in the weeds on this.
It's the printers and the button maker and the stuff that I brought to your house and stuff I dropped off, those stuff wasn't inventory.
Right, and there's stuff there, so.
And that stuff's been used throughout, I'm sorry,
first
I'd like to
up-
call the question.
I
there-
object.
Okay, it's been objected to, so, do we need a vote or can we just? Okay, the question's been called, it's been objected, all those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Oh, you didn't even oppose?
Well, I may, I'm just stunned that you guys wanna stifle discussion
I was-
over assets. The problem that you guys have is that also if it goes to storage facility, activists can't use it. The button maker and stuff like it gets used throughout the year at the office. And
Actually, you guys have a separate button maker.
Well, yeah, but that other stuff also gets
Right
used
now the
throughout,
button-
that other stuff also gets used throughout the year.
Correct.
Right, so, you know, it's a, not a very nice thing to the activists that have been storing stuff and they use it, right? This takes it away from access.
How much does this office get used? Are there people there regularly
Yeah,
going
they
in and out of
work
it?
there.
And
Yeah.
it's something we pay rent for to be using?
Well, we don't,
Okay, it's an in-kind donation.
It is
or
an
whatever.
in-kind donation.
But it's something we use regularly and have our people in and out of.
Yes.
And there's plenty of space there for this stuff.
Yes.
I'm seeing a reason why we wouldn't use something that we already have.
Well, we can't have any discussion on it.
Well, yeah.
I know, I was letting people, I was not being super pissy here. Okay, so, the question has been
Me?
called.
I'm the asshole? No, I'm not the asshole.
The question's been called, could you please read the motion?
Motion is to accept, the offer by, Tim Ferrera's associate to store the assets and ship them as needed to wherever they're needed.
Okay, we're gonna go to a vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Nay.
Fails? So, we're back to square one on this. Did you wanna,
Time has expired.
and time has expired, is there a motion to extend?
I'll
I'm
motion
happy-
to extend.
It's
Second.
been, it's been seconded, any objection? Hearing none, how long was it
I
extended?
didn't say how much time should
We
we
need 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
I'm gonna say,
Let's
you
say
said
five.
five,
Yeah,
I
let's
thought
go
I heard
with
you say
five.
five. Any
I have a
objection?
pickup truck, we've got the office, I'm willing to take stuff today, we need to arrange to get everything taken care of, I'm driving up there, I'll be up there for the next ExCom meeting, I'll take the pickup truck and drive things down, if we need to, it's, just continue handling it like we have.
Point of information,
Yeah.
kinda, I guess it's point of, I don't know what it is. So what we have here today is a bunch of signs and stuff, that's the only thing
I've
that's
already
here.
agreed to take that stuff.
Okay, the rest is, a lot of it is at Steve's house, so I think that no matter how we do this, we need to decide how we're going to do it. But if we decide we're gonna do it, then the next step is how to get, whether it goes there, to the moon, it needs to get taken from his house.
Sure.
Somewhere. So we need to know how it's going to be moved from his house to someplace else.
What, okay, well, what kind of, this is why you don't wanna do stuff like committee.
Point
What,
of information?
what's,
Who did the second
On what?
on the motion to extend?
It was moved by
was
Justin
me.
Quigley, it was seconded by Boomer
Thank you.
Shannon. All you have to
That's
note
all I
on the
need.
notes is it was seconded, but anyways, it's.
would
he
you
needs
have
to know
a,
that. Hmm?
do you have a time frame you need stuff out?
Uh,
Sooner would be better.
December.
By December?
Yeah.
So we got the rest of the year to
Yeah,
decide.
Airbnb there.
Oh my God.
That's the only time I really use that
You
room
need to
for-
suck it up for all your toys and stuff, right? That's really what you do.
I got
He
one
does,
more.
he sets up the train track.
Yeah.
Well, no, so.
No,
you see
because donations and stuff,
I,
yeah.
I line up, I fill the entire room because of the amount of stuff that I get for a
I've got
donation to
another
homeless folks.
Yes,
question.
okay, so.
No, he does.
And
Okay,
So
so,
if we, I think it would be wise if we, made the next committee meeting near Steve's house, so we could get some volunteers to load the trucks up and send stuff
and
down.
that's coming up on the agenda. I know that
I
there's two
pre,
things for that.
it's called a foil in books. So, speaking ahead, I'm happy to pick that stuff up later on, we can take care of it. We've got a place to store it. We can even inventory, if you guys wanna do all the inventory from north and south, we can do that because everything's been codified. Every single piece of equipment has, ID numbers on it, we're able to combine and separate them easily. So we can do that, that's easy, we have people that are willing to do it, so.
Mr. Shaw.
With respect to everyone here, I am hesitant to combine all of the parties' assets in this particular location because in the past I have tried to get assets and was told that I would need to go through a very unpleasant individual, and it allows them to put a chokehold on assets. I would much rather we put them somewhere else, and that is my personal opinion.
Mr. Quigley.
I might be digging too much into semantics here, but we've heard Monrovia, the location of the headquarters we already have. What's the location of this place that you're proposing? We don't know that yet. In relation to the distance to that and the convention we're having next year and people that live close by it.
Yep. So.
Is there a response to that? You don't know? I mean,
No, I forget.
We're trusting this unknown person to just take our stuff and store it somewhere where we don't know that location?
It is one of the beach cities right near LAX. I can't think of the name. Which one.
So there's only like 15 of those to choose from, right? I mean,
It's
we
it's
might
in
want
the
some more
South.
specifics before we actually
Do you
make
know
a
the
decision
South?
here.
I do.
Just saying.
Okay, I think that what we're at right now, if I could be, and we're almost out of the 5 minutes. I think where we're at right now is we don't have a motion, we've got basically till December to get it completely figured out. So we've got some time. I don't think we need to finalize any decision today, other than the fact that what's in a certain SUV doesn't wanna be in the
It's already
SUV any
gone.
So
longer.
it's already good to take that stuff.
So other
Unless
than
somebody
that-
here wants to tell me I can't. No, okay.
I don't want those in my house.
I was gonna take them to your house.
As long as you don't take them to my house. Okay, so time is exhausted on the physical assets. I don't think that we've come to any particular conclusion, although I don't know that we need to right now.
Harbor City. I couldn't remember which one it was called. Harbor City. Sorry.
It's okay. Is there anything else on the physical assets at this point? Because basically we've done nothing on them except for decide that we're going to do something that we're not sure what it is yet. Before December, before Christmas.
We set a
because-
time frame.
Yeah. So.
Progress.
Okay, that takes us past that to new business, which I had originally put down feeding the homeless under new business, but it was done under the northern vice chair, so, or the northern area coordinator. So is there any other new business? It's fine, you guys, we've gotten done too quickly, so you gotta come up with something.
There's more time for the afterplay.
I'm joking, I'm joking. Nope, we're not to adjourn, well, you could move it, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so there is no business, hearing none. So that brings us to set next meeting. This meeting is in the south, we now do have 3 areas. So I put it on here that it's appropriate that it either be in the north or the central for our next meeting. And I do believe that there are 2 separate proposals for possibilities for where this meeting is going to be. So, any proposals for next meeting?
I would like to move that we have schedule the next meeting for August 10th in Fresno, California.
And,
Were you talking about doing it somewhere else because of this asset?
well, and as I believe there was
that
another,
close
there's
before
a
you done?
motion to a substitute motion.
Yeah, substitute motion, there is an IHOP, it's just a few miles away from the San Jose airport. A room that's probably about 4 times the size of this, 0 cost, as long as we buy our food there. And August 10th would be kind of a side benefit, cause it's close to my house. And I plan on bringing back about 13 gallons of the greatest ice cream you've ever tasted from Pennsylvania.
He's really on about this ice cream.
He loves this ice cream.
I am not kidding.
What kind of ice
When I
cream?
went back here the first time, I asked, these folks on the dairy farm, and I asked them, do you guys get up in the morning and milk the cows and come over and make ice cream in the afternoon? And it was the expression on her face that sold me. It's like, well, yeah, of course.
Okay,
And
so the substitute motion, Boomer, don't leave yet.
Fresno.
Yes, this one.
He doesn't have to, because we're just about done.
You can bring it to Fresno just as well.
Go back to those.
Wherever the meeting is, you better bring that ice cream now.
I think that is a caveat for, anyways. Okay, so we've got a substitute motion to have this in San Jose, and let's just do this first. With the side benefit of an ice cream party. So we've got a motion, let me finish this, a motion and a substitute motion. The motion is for Fresno, the substitute motion is for San Jose. Both of those are for August 10th, which I haven't even looked at my calendar on, but everybody should probably look at least for their calendars to make sure August 10th is a good date. Now we go to discussion, and we can discuss either the motion or the substitute motion because they're acting together, and also either of those can be amended if people look at their calendars and decide August 10th is not good. Discussion, Mr. Houck.
I would add a sweetener. We could also use it at my house as a fundraiser. We could sell raffle tickets, and the winner could get a ride in the groom.
Well, this is getting better and better by the moment.
Only if we can play Bohemian Rhapsody.
That could be arranged.
Okay, is there any other discussion on either the motion or the substitute motion?
I'd rather go to San Jose for ice cream than Fresno.
Is that your discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so that was Ms. Hewitt, further discussion?
That accommodates Boomer picking up stuff from Steve's house, right?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay, Mr. Ham, any further discussion on either of the two motions? You can talk on the substitute or the main.
I like Fresno.
Okay,
Just because.
okay, so that's, you're talking, okay. Is there any other discussion on either the motion or the substitute motion?
I just wanna say we haven't had a central area meeting.
Why are you guys for
Ever.
Fresno though?
Oh, we haven't had a
It's
central
like
area.
in the middle.
Cause it's in the middle and I'm tired of driving all over the freaking state.
I know Fresno is Fresno, but it's like very central. Very central.
Happened thanks to bullet train straight back, right?
Does anybody object to hearing from Supervisor Hewitt? Hearing none?
I'd like to hear the ambient temperatures of each of the two spots.
You
know
know,
what Fresno is, how hot
Hot
is it in
is-
San Jose?
Not as hot as
It'll
Fresno.
be a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Fresno will be hot.
Fresno will be warmer than San Jose.
On the upside, we'll be in a nice hotel with air conditioning.
in Fresno.
Well,
Yeah.
But no ice cream.
No ice cream.
yeah, in San Jose. it's
Unless
like-
Steve brings it to Fresno with
It's
him.
probably gonna be in the 80s or something like that, so
There
It's also-
there's a Superior Dairy in Hanford that's known for its ice cream.
It's supposed to be the best ice cream in the state, so we can bring some from Superior
I'm
Dairy.
almost certain California state government probably puts limits on the amount of cream they can put in their ice cream. And I can attest firsthand by taste,
There's
this
people
stuff has
breaking
got
the
more
laws.
cream in it than Ben and Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs. And
How
that's,
far are you guys from San Jose?
it's
Well,
worth it.
it's
4 hours.
3 hours maybe.
it would just be nice to have one closer to home eventually.
It would be
This one
nice
was
to
yours.
not have to drive
In the
3+
fall.
hours.
Why don't we put it in a
Okay, so
freezer container or something and ship it down to Fresno?
okay, so, I am going to, as a point of information, we're talking now about our August third quarter meeting. The December 4th quarter meeting will be in Los Angeles because it will be at the host hotel for the, convention. So that's already, and we have that last meeting before the convention. There will be a first quarter 2020 meeting that happens before the convention, likely in January. So our fourth quarter is not gonna be in December, it's going to be in November, because this is in August and November. Then it'll be January, and then that one, at that point, will be in either the north or the central, whichever one this next one isn't. Just as an FYI. Because this is the first year that we've had 3 areas, so. And because of the convention, it's a little skewed because the convention is in Los Angeles. So, I'm just throwing that out there as part of the discussion. Is there any further discussion on either the main motion or the substitute motion?
I think having a central committee, or central valley meeting, and anytime other than summer would be great.
That is a good point.
And the next will be in November, so any other further discussion? We've got the main motion, which is for Fresno. Both of these motions are on August 10th, keep in mind, so make sure August 10th is good. The substitute motion is to have it in San Jose at the IHOP. What would be the location, just out of curiosity, what hotel?
It is,
Marriott.
I've got to look at the.
But you already have a
locations
hotel in
for
mind,
them.
you have a hotel.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we do have a place certain for both of these proposals. Is there any further discussion on the main motion or the substitute motion?
Does the hotel charge?
Yes.
Does IHOP?
No.
No, you just.
He established that in his sales pitch.
Okay, any further discussion on either? Justin, don't leave, we're about to vote.
You know, it's just as much hassle for me to go to Fresno or San Jose, so I'm not even gonna vote.
Perfect, I just
It's
wanted to
the
make
same
sure.
amount of distance and time to put into either, so I don't care.
Fresno is just as far for you as.
Well, I mean, it might be a little bit farther than San Jose, but crossing over to the bay versus going straight down the valley. I mean, if either one of you wanted my vote, you should have picked a place closer to me.
Well, at Justin's house.
So,
Okay.
Courtyard, Fresno.
Courtyard by Marriott in Fresno. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will first vote on the substitute motion. All those in favor of the substitute motion, which is to have the meeting at the IHOP in San Jose on August 10th, please. Let's do it. Say aye. We may actually do a joint vote. Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so the main motion, or the substitute motion now becomes the main motion. At this point, the main motion becomes to have the meeting in San Jose on August 10th at the IHOP. At this point, there could be another substitute motion, this could be amended, or we could go to a vote on the main motion.
Call question.
Question's been called. Any objection to calling the question? Hearing none. All of those in favor of having the meeting on August 10th in San Jose, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Wait, are you raising your hands for this?
Wait, for
For San Jose all of a sudden?
Well, San Jose is all we've got right now, or
Yeah,
else
all
we
we've
go
got
back
is
to
San Jose
square
right
one.
Oh.
And it needs 8 votes,
And
so.
you go dinner like crazy.
There's not 8.
Did somebody drop their
That's
hand?
all we have, and I'll report.
Oh, like there's, Fresno's not even on lock right now?
Fresno's on
No,
lock.
we
No,
already
this
got Fresno.
this is it, and it needs 8 votes.
You
If
guys
you
Either
don't
that
have
or we
votes,
come up
we're
with
dead in the
another
water.
location. Which I know Justin wants Modesto.
This makes me
So we could-
question whether the substitute vote actually passed.
The substitute vote passed.
Okay, it was a voice vote.
It was a voice vote, and it passed.
Okay.
This requires 8 votes, so we're gonna do this again. If you're in favor, please raise your hand.
If I have to vote.
Okay, that's 9 in favor, all those opposed? 1 opposed.
Somebody doesn't like ice cream.
No, sir, I just don't like driving.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, it passed 9-1 with 1 expressed abstention, actually it wasn't expressed, it passed 9-1.
What dry hop is this?
You don't go to the meeting.
It's on Great America Parkway, just off of one.
So it's actually in Santa Clara.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's 4200 Greater America Parkway.
Okay, alright, everybody, so keep in mind that, our next meeting after that will be in Los Angeles, and the meeting after that will be in the central area. So, just keep that in mind, cause that's where the next one after that will be, in January. So that brings us to our action items. I don't believe that we had any official action items during this meeting. I don't believe there was, other than, actually, there is one action item. And that is for me, for the motion, to, write that thing. But the action item is also on everybody else in this room to send me their ideas and suggestions about those bills, about the vaccinations. So that is an action item for this full committee. Please help me out with that. That's it for action items. So that brings us to the next item on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. It was Boomer moved, seconded Wendy. Any objections to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 3:59.